We are live.
Welcome to the live stream, everybody.
Going Youper in here. D's balls and excited. He goes,
I
you
know,
tell
he's like,
me.
who is Jay? Yeah.
Who is JT?
That's funny.
Welcome, everybody.
Mary's in the house. Bad Blood Reptiles. Welcome. I haven't seen you in a minute. Or a few days, anyway.
Yeah. Welcome, Heather.
Welcome.
Let a few people jump in here real quick, and then we'll get going.
What do you mean, who is Jay? Actually, you need to put the hat on. If you put the hat on, everybody recognizes you.
We got a rock star in the house tonight, so and not Justin either.
Yeah, that's in my own mind. He like real time.
Oh yeah. You did 2 snake sales today, huh?
Nice, local.
Would you sell your ultramales? Ultramales, maybe?
He said he was going to get rid of the 2 ultramales. He wants to just do pieds, I think.
Ain't nothing wrong with
that. A little variety of different pieds, but just stay with the pieds, I think.
Oh yeah. Pieds always sell. I mean, you ain't never have a problem with that. So.
And he's a visual kind of guy too. So.
1 ultramale and the tegu, he said.
Oh, and the tegu.
And the tegu.
Damn.
Dang, you only waited like 6 months to get that thing.
700. Can't go wrong with that. He's all happy.
Money's money.
Can't go wrong with that.
So you're based in Vegas now, huh?
Yeah. Moved out. Was in California for a while, but moved out here. So
nice. Yeah, that's a lot to be better than California, I'd say.
A lot cheaper, especially looking at building some stuff down the road. So we do, because I got a business partner for the retic, so we do that portion, a lot of that in Arizona, and I do the rest of it out here.
Hell yeah! Oh yeah, and that's awesome. He's in Arizona, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, AP, welcome. Got to be where it's warm.
Oh yeah.
Everybody wants to be in them cold states.
A lot.
See, there's another big retic breeder. Is he in Colorado? That wildfire retic?
I think they're in Colorado. I'm like 90% sure. Yeah.
Colorado or right there by Utah, maybe.
Yeah, there's a few of them. I think there's a few of them in Colorado, and then there's another big one out in Arizona too.
Oh yeah.
Eric Lee's up there.
You guys in them big snakes, man. I like them. I like to look at them. I've had a big snake before, not a big snake, but a bigger boa. But man, like now, I don't think I could take on a big snake with all the other crap I do and shit.
I had a boa, and it was like 8-9 foot, and I got rid of it because I can't read that damn thing. I can read pythons, but I could not read that boa.
I was curious with them. Was it Boston boas talking about the smaller ones that only get about 6-7 feet? I didn't know they had like a smaller version, but those seem pretty interesting.
Yeah, you got like your Hog Islands too. You got a couple different boa species that stay a little bit smaller, but I have trouble reading them too. I've been bit more by boas lately than anything else. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd have it out and it'd be nice, and then just out of nowhere, just bite you for no reason. I'll be like, "What the hell?"
See, I don't really need that because I have ear gone for that. So I don't need a snake like that either. So.
Yeah, it's every bite I've taken from that snake, I had no idea it was coming. And usually a retic, if I'm gonna get bit, I know well ahead of time I messed up. But boas are not like that.
Yeah, they're just, and crazy, it's funny because everybody goes, "Oh, boas is so nice," and I'm like, there is no way. I've never had one that's nice. Everyone I've had is just mean.
I've had a few of them.
Funny. Now the boas that I've dealt with were always nice. I've never been bit by one. I don't think ever.
They hit hard. It's pretty funny. Like you feel it feels like you got punched. Yeah, it feels identical to being like someone hit you.
Oh, yeah.
The one that was it you, Chris, or was it one of the guests? Somebody said that they had one and it would punch the tub and like open it and shit.
Well, I had mine was in a 6-foot enclosure, and when she'd eat, she'd hit it so hard she'd move the enclosure.
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean,
I thought somebody
so hard,
said, yeah, that would smack the tub open or something. Somebody.
I mean,
said.
it's just like holy moly,
like,
and then
yeah. I had a buddy that came over just the other day. He came in the room and he's watched the show before, the Tuesday show, and he's all, oh, this is where it's at, huh? And he's seen the snakes and shit. It was pretty cool. He's all like, they don't get out of those the drawers. I was like, no, they're pretty secure in there. You know, it's all they got their own little environments, heat and all that shit. He was pretty infatuated, how do you say it? Infatuated with it, or not infatuated, but that one word. Yeah, exactly. Intrigued about it. Yeah, intrigued. But
I've seen your husband get bit many times by that boa. James got bit on a live stream too. He had it out and it just turned around and nailed him, dude. You know, like damn. And it's funny. He goes, "See, I must be doing good. She's not bit me yet." And right after he said that, she turned around and nailed him.
Oh yeah,
with that.
What's up, Gomez?
Gomez pythons. Welcome. I always had to go when I was pregnant with my son. They turned over that. Oh, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
I wonder. Yeah, that's nuts. They didn't want no babies around. They're all like, hey, yeah, that's crazy.
I know. I was watching Jay from Prehistoric Pets here not long ago. He got a big boa that got surrendered to him, and he was feeding it, just stuffing it full of chicken legs that it hadn't eaten like a year or whatever. But it was a huge boa, dude. I was like, God Almighty! I mean, it was big. It was big.
That's crazy, yeah.
I always tell people it's like the scariest snake I ever dealt with. It wasn't a retic. It was a wild caught boa that Bob had. And that thing scared me more than anything else.
Oh, I bet wild caught be more, yeah, way worse. And then, no.
And Bob's got, he deals in a lot of blood pythons too, right?
He's got some, yeah. He doesn't have like a ton of them, but he's got a group of really, really nice ones that he breeds, so.
How were they? Were they pretty mean?
The one
Photo Danger, welcome. DA Exotics, welcome.
When she hit you, that thing hit harder than a boa.
So, yeah, I bet.
I never liked cleaning that one. That was always fun.
I mean, that's
powerful too.
I mean, did you see Gomez? Yeah, Gomez said the worst bite he ever got was from a boa that just finished giving birth. I bet.
So, I mean, that's a lot of good mentorship that you had, you know, working with like Bob Clark and Jay from Prehistoric Pets. I mean, you work for some pretty big time people, actually, you know.
Yeah, I've had an unbelievable lucky experience with that, you know, because I learned a ton through both of them. So.
Oh, I bet.
So you lived here in Oklahoma for a while then?
I did, yeah. So I lived in Oklahoma for a while, and I got my first retic from Bob, and we started talking, and then it was funny because I said, I only ever want one. He said, I'll see you in a week. And sure enough, I was back in a week, and then he offered me a job. And at that point, I really didn't know anything about retics, so it was pretty cool to kind of him mentor me along that and, you know, kind of teach me everything I knew. So, and then I moved back out to California where I was initially from, and then Bob got me the job with Jay. So I met Jay and got to work with him. So that was pretty. Working with Jay and Tim was absolutely amazing too.
Oh yeah, I mean,
hell yeah.
Just the knowledge you learn from both of them people is phenomenal. So awesome. You know, I mean, so
that's actually I learned a ton at Jay's because he gave me a group of female retics and he was like, get these ones to breed. And I always tell people I learned mostly from the mistakes I made than anything when I was learning how to do that. But it's the best way to do it.
So did you see a difference in the breeding cycle between Oklahoma and California? Like, was there different months they go, or are they all the same no matter the climate?
At Bob's, it was more of a seasonal thing. They both had huge groups go off at the same time, but at Jay's, we were producing snakes all year long. So there was the typical kind of season, which is where we're in now, where they're starting to breed and lay in March and stuff. But we were producing eggs all the year, where Bob's stuff pretty much all went in season. Like nothing really went outside of the season. And I think it's just because of the colder temps and the more heavy storm systems you get in Oklahoma.
Right.
It's a little easier when you're in an environment like that to breed them in one group, where like out where I am now, we really don't get a whole lot of barometric pressure shifts. So it's a little bit different when it comes to that. So I'm breeding now more off calories than when I was out in Oklahoma.
So, did you drop temps and stuff in Oklahoma when you were breeding them?
Did I what?
Did you drop the temperatures like in their room or their cage or anything?
I actually never did. I just kind of let the ambient house temperature fall a bit, but I never actually messed with the hot spot. It's just something I don't tend to do with retics. I know guys that do it and it works great, but I tend to just kind of have a natural kind of fall of temperature towards night in the winter. And then most of what I've kind of learned is it goes mostly off calories with retics. It's like a combination of barometric pressure and how much calories you're giving them. But yeah, it's and then now it's super dwarfs. I tend to breed seasonally, but everything else it's just kind of sporadically.
Wow.
So do you try to feed more calories before you start breeding them? I mean, up their food and everything.
Yeah, I do it a little different than other people. I like to give them kind of a time period where they're off food, just to make sure if there's any overweight ones, they're kind of cutting back on their weight. And then I go through a period, usually starting in August, September, where I'm feeding very, very heavily, like considerably heavy. And then that's just getting them ready to go off food and be ready to go. So, because they go off food for a long time, especially the mainlands, they can be off food for quite a while going through the whole process. So,
right.
Wow.
These balls wants to know what do you keep your hot spot at for your retics?
On average, 89 for my mainlands and about 87 for my super dwarfs. But sporadically, I always tell people it kind of changes because some of the females I have will be at 89 and they'll push, and I'll have to lower it, to 87 or 88 to get them to stop pushing, and then some like it a little bit hotter. And that I can just tell that because they never will leave their hot spot, so I'll bump it up like a degree or two. But typically, it's 89 for mainlands and 87 for super dwarfs.
Wow.
That's about what I got mine set at, is like around 88, 88 and a half on the hot side. And then it's a little cooler. I try to give them that range because I do notice they do like it kind of cool too, more than ball pythons that, they'll actually can go a little cooler. So
a lot more, especially the locality stuff. Like my Kalatoa stuff they avoid the hot side almost whenever they can. So they really like it, about 78 degrees on the cold side where they're chilling most of the time unless they're digesting something. So
exactly. That's when I notice my retics on the hot side when they're digesting. Other than that, they really don't hang out on the hot side that much,
Yeah, they really don't. They like to keep their whole metabolic rate pretty slow. So it's a pretty interesting like evolutional thing when you kind of consider that. They like to waste as little energy as possible by staying cold. So
yeah,
pretty smart.
Yeah. Well, they're crazy smart.
Well, they like to hang out in the front of the tub waiting on that next meal. Yeah, that's what it is.
I can't tell you how many times I've been bit thinking I was opening a ball python, and then I open a retic, and that's why luckily my wife was a little smarter than me on that, and she put, she started organizing everything with stickers to remind me which ones are which. So.
So what? Is there an age or weight you usually generally go by for breeding?
With retics, I don't go by weight. I go by age and 4. So I don't really like to breed before 4 personally, especially when it comes to super dwarfs. I don't even like to try. But 3.5 to 4 is what I'm shooting for. I don't like to. Some guys power feed them and try to get them to 12 feet right away. It's just not how I do it. So I keep them. I grow them really slow, and then at 4 years, I'm trying to get them to go. I just think that's way healthier for them. You will, if you do it that way, you will get them to go at 4, where if you try to get them to go at 2.5 or 3 and you rush it, odds are they won't go at that age, and they might wait to be 7 or 8 years old before they actually go off food, just because, power feeding retics is just detrimental to them.
Right.
Messes with everything, and they're not meant to be big snakes like a berm. So when the eggs, the reason they'll reabsorb is the eggs have no room to actually grow because there's so much fat that's constricting it. They'll develop follicles, they'll go off food, and the follicles just have no room to grow, and they'll just reabsorb them right away.
Wow.
Well, that's what I kind of figured too.
This is retic school tonight.
Because I've seen retics, a guy show a 3-year-old female and then his 4-year-old female, and what a difference, dude. I mean, and he goes, this is why I weighed at 4, because you could see the size comparison. I mean, just that extra year I mean, and he goes, plus you get better eggs and stuff and more from them, so
you're going to get a bigger, healthier first clutch than if you pushed them, and you're going to get them to probably go every year. Where if you rushed them, even if you get them to go the first time, you're not going to probably get them to go the year after. So they kind of become sporadic breeders, where if you really do it right, they'll breed about every 9 months for you, which I do mine every year, but I'm not as good as Tim, but Tim used to do it every 9 months, like on a clock with some of them. It was pretty crazy. That dude he used to tell me sometimes, he's like, oh, she's going to lay in August. And, before she was ever off food, and he'd have a clutch of eggs in August. So,
wow.
Yeah, dude, he was crazy. So,
I bet.
And they actually got 2 egg canals, right? So they have 2 rows of eggs that go in the retics compared to like ball pythons, I guess.
No, ball pythons do.
Ball pythons have it too.
Right, but I mean, it seems like what I've seen on the big snakes is it seems like I've seen a couple people, like, they'll have one set of eggs and might get bound up on the second track. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
so they got the same as the ball python. Yeah, the ball python has the 2 tracks too.
Right.
That's why when you're palpating either one, you'll feel them in like a diagonal form.
Right.
Is because they won't be like next to each other in each canal. They'll be like one up, one down. So that's why you're looking for that zigzag form when you're palpating them.
Right. So what's the biggest clutch retic eggs you had?
Personally, the biggest one I've ever had, I think about 49. I've never had a massive clutch. Biggest one I've ever seen.
49 is pretty big.
Yeah, that was a female that had smaller eggs, so she kicked out a ton. She was a big snake that had really small eggs, so she kicked out a ton of them. But at Jay's, I've seen some ridiculous, and Bob's. Bob had a blonde that it was like 89 eggs. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some big clutches of Jay's too. Watching videos, it's like, holy shit.
I remember when those used to hatch. Used to always, take up so much of Tim's time, like setting them all up and putting them all on the side. I'd be there forever setting up 80 eggs. So.
No shit, jeez, that's crazy.
Whenever those would hatch out, it's like it's gonna be a long night. So.
Yeah.
Well, you only got to breed one snake that year. If it was me, I mean, if I had 80-some eggs, I'd be like, well, that's the only clutch I'm having this year.
Yeah, that's all you need. Fine. That's a lot of snakes, man.
Dude,
yeah.
Be talking to a ball python guy. Oh, I had 20 clutches and 200 eggs or whatever. Well, I had one clutch and 89.
Yeah. It's like.
That's what I love about retics.
But that's a different game, though. It's crazy.
Because like you realistically can hit pretty crazy odds off one snake. Where with ball pythons, I'm holding back 6 of them to try to hit the odds on something. So,
correct.
The whole different ball game with them. So,
and like Dylan said, genetics play a huge role in a lot of that growth too. I'm sure. So.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I always talk to people about is everyone assumes mainlands all get to the same size. Like, oh, if you have a mainland, it's going to be 20 feet, and it's like that's not true. It's always like people. Like there's 7 foot tall people and, there's 4 foot tall people, and it's the same thing within mainlands itself. And then you get the localities. But I have one mainland line where the mom is 8 years old. She's, 11 feet now. And her daughter she's almost 3, and she's the size of some of my yearlings of other lines. So and that's just a really small line. So they really.
So can you get a pretty idea on the growth of your snake by the parents, how big the parents was then?
The mom particularly. I think the father, and I could be wrong, but in my experience, the father has very little to say on that. It's pretty much the size of the mom. No. Like I have seen people take pureblood super dwarf males, breed them to a huge mainland female, and the babies get huge. So it's, the size of the mom, you can pretty accurately, and of course it depends on feeding. Because if you're feeding a snake every 3 days, it's going to be big. So, but if you're feeding it, a healthy way to feed it, you can kind of tell based on the size of the mom.
Oh yeah, well that's good to know because I've seen the mom for my female. She was huge. She was huge.
You got big lines there, and that's pretty cool because some of the big lines from some people are getting a little bit rare. I don't have a whole lot of lines, between me and my partner that can get massive. So.
Right. And Bob's got that. He still sells some of that. What is it, fluffy line or whatever?
Yeah,
and that's a big snake, dude.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about him. He kind of warns you if you're buying a big line. He lets you know this is a big line. This is going to be a big snake. So
that's crazy when you're buying a big snake. It's like, oh, this one's going to be a real big one.
Yeah,
real big one.
Well, I mean, and that's everybody because they all automatically assume they're going to be a 25-foot snake. You know what I mean? And it's just not. I mean, not true. I mean, even with berms, I mean, there's some berms that are just massive, dude. And others that just don't get that big. I mean, it's genetics and where they are. I mean,
exactly. It's the rarity that gets huge, and that's always what I tell people. It's the over 20-foot ones are. Most cases are people exaggerating how big their snake is, but the true 20-foot ones are, few and far between. So,
do you have any like F1 genetics or anything like that in your line?
I do with my Super Dwarf stuff. That stuff is pretty like first generation, second generation, that kind of stuff, and then the blue hypo stuff I bought from Bob is not that far removed. So I think it's like second generation captive bred. So that line I'm kind of starting with a little bit newer genes, and all my Super Dwarf stuff is pretty close. So
I think that's a big thing too. If you can get some of the more first generation or more like wild caught, in your collection, that really helps with your genetics. I think just because we've been breeding and breeding on top and on top of everything, that if you can kind of put some of that back into it, I think that would help.
Especially with retics, because the way I always explain to people is there are like such a low fraction compared to ball python breeders, how many retic breeders there are. So the fact that we can't import makes our bloodlines pretty close. So anytime there's an opportunity to add new blood to the collection, it's really solid. And then when you're able to sell it, it helps everyone out. So because that's some of the issues we're seeing with retics is the one-eye snakes and the kink snakes and kind of the different stuff that's starting to happen from inbreeding. So,
and isn't there a line of retics? I don't know what they're called right off hand, but they're all white and they can have they can die on you. I guess they've had problems with them.
Yeah, so it's a leucistic. So the black-eyed leucistics, they tend to have a lot of problems. Now we were able to see that through adding more and more genes to them, it actually kind of solved that problem. Not completely, but at Jay's, when we started to add titanium and other stuff to it, we started to actually see they're actually going to reach adulthood. My partner actually has an adult one, a Lucy. So Jay has one, and there's a few of them that go around, and I think it's just diluting your bloodlines. I think it's an inbreeding issue because it's a digestive issue, so it really sucks. They'll hatch out perfectly healthy, and between 6 months to a year that they'll start to die. And basically, digestive system slows down, then it stops. They get lesions in their intestines, and then it's over. So it's a really hard thing to raise them and watch when you're doing it.
Yeah, because I seen a few for sale a while back, and they were pricey. They're expensive. Yeah. And the guy guaranteed them. If it dies within a year, he'd replace it. But he said that he's, which is a pretty good guarantee. If it has, unless you killed it by your own stupidity. No. But he says with that, the problems they do have. So he said he thought he pretty well had bred it out where it would live longer. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. And we sold a few at Jay's that with the same kind of guarantee when we had some we were really comfortable with. But the key was just diluting that bloodline as far as we could. So
cool. So you're pretty much into the ball pythons though now, ain't you?
Yeah, I'm getting kind of more and more into it because it's kind of fun not to have the space constraints of retic genes and all the new options. Yeah, the new options is too what's getting me. It's like, I can't have 20 ball pythons in the space.
Yeah, it's all the same thing, but just a smaller scale.
Exactly, and a lot more genes. That's kind of what's been fun about it because I love breeding, I love making stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And I can feel a little more ethical about selling a lot of them just because I don't have to quite grill people like I do with the retics. So you feel a little more comfortable going out to people.
So explain this cow ball python to me. I've seen that picture and it's this beautiful snake and how it works as it gets older.
So far, what I believe it is genetically is a banana pastel, black pastel, cinnamon. And so right now it's all white. If you guys haven't seen the photo, it's on my Instagram, and it's starting to get its first spots. So that's why I kind of called it a ball python. I'm not renaming it or anything. I'm not trying to pull prehistoric pets. Basically, it's just a little nickname I threw on it just because I'm sure other people have done it. But it's just something when I started to see the spots, I was like, oh, I'm going to nickname the cow. So it's just something where with a banana, when you're able to reduce that color and it's still going to get spots, I'm really, really into that. The ones without pastel, they still had a purple tint to them, which I liked a little better than all white personally. But when you add the pastel gene, they turn like solid white. So
that's awesome. And so they just get spots, or do they actually start getting pattern to them?
Just spots. So that's why I just kind of nicknamed it. It's kind of similar if you've ever seen one of the more reduced pattern cows, when people have more genes into it and they get a little more reduced. The original cows get more pattern, but the more, like when you start adding Sunfire and more into it, Golden Child, they start to get a little more reduced on that. So, but when it was white with spots, I'm like, oh, I'm going to tick some people off and call it a cow in my post. So
hell no, that's marketing, man. That's good to know, though.
For sure.
It's a beautiful snake, and I mean, because I've seen that clutch that you did with it, and I think that was the only one you got out of that clutch, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's been I've had really good odds for the past 3 seasons, and this year all that kind of caught up with me. So that was finally everything started to kind of even out on the odds. But I'll be doing an update on that one in my YouTube channel. We've been kind of relaunching that with some new equipment and new video editing stuff. But I'm going to be showing the regular ones without the pastel and then the all white ones with the pastel. So I just hatched a few more of it last week, right before the holiday. So
hell yeah. So how many breeder females you got going for you then?
Oh man, that's a question I don't like to think about. Man,
that many, huh?
It just keeps growing.
Between 50 and 100, or over 100, or
no, between 50 and 100 right now, and then with retics, we're at about 50. So we got a lot of retics. Yeah. So the retics kind of exploded faster than we intended, but when I kind of combined my retic business with this guy Total Domination Reptiles. And so we kind of combined all our stuff together, and that's where, so it wasn't 50 in the first place, but it's kind of expanded. So.
Oh yeah. Any what's your most anticipated clutch this year? You got anything that you're really looking forward to?
Yeah, so we're hoping for later in the year. We're hoping for genetic platinum blue hypos, which would be a world's first. So that's something with retics. It's either going to be us or Bob. That's the first to do it. But I'm kind of hoping to beat Bob to that one. So
nice.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping.
Yeah, I've had pretty high hopes for that one, but it was a pretty crazy clutch. I got really lucky with the way that project started. I bought a platinum het blue hypo that turned out to also be het genetic stripe and het albino. So it turned out to be a triple het. So I got really lucky, ended up pairing it with a genetic stripe, and then the whole project kind of kicked off with that. So.
Well, let's see if I can get him to answer this question. He'll probably say no comment. But so when you worked for Bob Clark, did he have them hit pied berms then, or what?
Not to my knowledge, no. I can say I never saw that, so I knew that was at some point. So.
Did he get him before the Lacey Act or after the Lacey Act?
That one I won't comment on. I don't know, so I'm not going to comment on that
one. Yeah. Nah.
He's all like, nope.
I'm not sure. I wasn't working for him. No. I mean, I know Bob. If you know Bob,
Yeah.
But it was cool to see him and Will Banks do that project together, though, so.
Yeah, because they used to be partners with all the stuff. So Will Banks actually was the one that brought in the first pied. Not a lot of people know about that, but yeah, he decided to get out after that, but he was the one that bought into that first project. So
yeah,
nice.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure they still do business together. Even because I mean, Will Banks is just huge into the ball python game. I mean,
oh yeah,
and I'm sure if Bob needs something, you know, Mike's right there to have anything he needs. And
yeah, he got the micro scale line from Mike. So
right. So working with Bob, I don't know if you've seen it when you used to work for him, but I know he's into it now. What's your thought on the hybrids?
You know, I think they're really cool. You know, I think the way he did it was really cool. He never had an issue with I never really saw any issues from it, but I don't make them anymore just because of an issue I had and I was working for Jay that I felt kind of bad about. But you know, the way he did it, I never saw any health issues with him. I just saw the second generation of them when he bred burn ball to burn ball. Those were really weird to predict how big they were going to get. You had some that looked more like ball pythons that stayed really small, and you had some in the same clutch that looked like berms and got really big. So that was the interesting thing. That was kind of like, whoa, you know.
Yeah,
and it's something I've started to see in some of my later Superdorf crosses when I'm breeding, like, you know, second generation, technically hybrid between Calatoa and Python reticulatus, or Morelia reticulatus, however you want to say that.
Right.
And the sizes, some will stay 6 feet, like almost a pureblood, and some are getting up to like 14 feet. So I've started to see those sizes do kind of the same thing as hybrids do. So
that's cool. Yeah, because I've seen them burn balls that he had. He was at a show, and they look pretty nice. You know,
they look almost like a clown ball python. I think they're awesome.
I mean, they're crazy what he's doing with them. I mean, and you know, of course, I've seen some bad eaters for sale here in the last few months too. I mean, them are cool looking, but I mean, it's just I don't know much about them. You know what? If there's any issues or their temperament, you know what I mean. So, but
I don't think I've ever seen one.
The ones he had that we would clean, you know, because that was my job. I was a cleaner there, so I would take out everything and clean it. They were never bad. So they kind of, what interested me is they had a food response like a berm when you first went in, but once they were out, they were absolutely fine. But they also, the babies tended to have that berm attitude for the first, you know, couple of months that berms get. So.
Yeah, want to bite you all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they seem to calm down a lot more though than a retic. I mean, retics calm down too, but I mean, seems like the berms after they get out over that bitey, they're generally okay. Then you know, I mean,
yeah. Once they kind of get over that, I mean, I think retics. It depends on when you start handling them excessively, because I think if you take group of babies and you start really interacting with them when they're young, they can actually be calmer. But the always thing I remind people with is retics are just a little smarter and they're a little more sensitive to how they're being handled. So if a berm's being handled poorly, I haven't really seen them want to bite. Where if a retic, even a really calm retic, is being handled poorly or they don't like something, that's when they can bite. So that's kind of the difference between the two, I'd say, with that. Is a retic, they're just a little more, they kind of know what they want. But it's gotten different with the captive bred ones. The captive bred ones have totally changed the whole retic game. So,
right.
I don't know if you guys have ever worked with a wild caught, but they are mean. They're mean and they're smart. Really smart.
Back in the
I bet.
early 90s, yeah, I had a buddy that had a wild caught retic, and he brought it over. It was only probably 6 foot, man, you know, and I tried. It got to the point where even with welding gloves or whatever on, dude, that thing just it wanted to bite you constantly, dude. I mean, it just was mean. I mean, I don't want to say mean because I mean, but I mean, yeah, it was a handful. It was a freaking handful.
Yeah, they are.
Sometimes they're mean.
Yeah, and they were
they were wild caught, you know.
Yeah. They would remember, because we used to wear gloves instead of hooks at Bob. Just it allowed us to kind of work faster and protected our hands with them. And like you would reach in and turn them off, and they would only really strike at the glove a couple times. They remembered like, oh, this doesn't get them to go away. Then they learned to strike for the bicep or other areas. So they were pretty interesting. They learned fast what to do. So.
See, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start biting you somewhere else.
Or they would come out, act cool, and then as soon as they got kind of a little farther past that first third, they would turn around and strike at you. So they knew kind of how to handle the situation.
Do you have any venomous?
Not anymore, no. That is something I got out of when I got married to my wife. I got out of that. So, you know, it was something that I just kind of realized, like, I don't know about this, but I used to be really into that. So.
Oh yeah, that was a question we had from Mary Python. So.
Yeah, I used
Welcome,
to do it. I
J-Dog.
used to keep a few cobras, had a rattlesnake and some other stuff, but I just kind of ended up getting out of all that. So,
welcome, J-Dog. You know who J-Dog is?
yes, I do.
There
How's
you
it
go.
going?
Yep.
I always have a hard time remembering people.
Right there. He's all like, I know him.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah, he said he's
Hell
been
yeah.
to Prehistoric Pets a few times, met y'all and everything. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
He's got videos and stuff.
It's a cool place to go to, especially now that they took down the wall to the breeding room. So you can actually come in, you can see everything being bred, all the females in that room. It's pretty cool now. So
nice.
So I've heard Jay's trophy room is just awesome. I mean, he's got some stuff in there that's just amazing, dude.
yeah, it's I remember the first time I went to visit his shop, it blew my mind because Bob breeds more kind of to make stuff to sell. Jay breeds to make crazy stuff, and I always say his trophy room ruined anything I was making. So it's when you see that, it's just like I didn't even know this was possible. Like I thought stuff that was 10 years out, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, here's a yearling, yearling male we have." So their stuff is just off the wall crazy that they have in that trophy room.
That is wild.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot to post this when it hatched," and he's never posted some crazy, 8-gene snake he's got. So
right, yeah, stuff in there that you'll never buy, or if you did, it'd be so ridiculous a price that he couldn't turn down the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's always the funny thing I say about Jay. He hated selling stuff.
Yeah,
it's one of the things with him. He loved all of his high-end snakes, and he did not want to sell any of them. It's like whenever I would sell one for him, he would get kind of ticked off almost. I sold it. That was a huge difference when I was working for Jay. So,
but he'd always say, "Well, if you want to buy something, go over to JT and follow him on Instagram. He'll have stuff for sale." And then you'd like, "Don't be selling that damn thing."
Yeah, he would miss anything I sold, but that was definitely that was an amazing experience to work and learn from those guys. So,
well, I bet that's like the pinnacle of everything there.
Yeah.
So what's your feelings with the pied retic? Have you seen? I mean, I've seen some people say they've got some really nice ones, and then you hear people go, "They ain't nothing but just they're grumpy all the time."
And my opinion on it is, and I know what people are talking about. My first big snake bite was a pied. So, but the thing with them is the original ones, because Bob is not trying to make higher end combos. He's trying to kind of make mostly the same stuff. So he doesn't tend to hold back more captive bred stuff and breed. So the original ones were not held back very much. And as far as just the first ones that started that project, they were the nastiest snakes I've ever worked with to this day. The original kind of het pieds. But, if I think a lot of it is when people get them now, they already assume they're mean, so they don't handle them, or they act nervous, which makes them bite. So I think, honestly, if you work with them from a young age, they can calm down just like anything. I think a lot of it with the pied is hype. And there's definitely some mean ones out there, but there's mean albinos out there.
Right.
So, it's something like with the original kind of platinums that Bob had, those were mean as hell too. And there's platinums that are sweet as can be. So it's just kind of whenever you're dealing with the first kind of start of a line, they tend to kind of go that way. So Bob's original hypos were the same thing. They were just mean as could be. So.
Yeah, because Kevin said he's got a line of pieds he's been working with, with generation, and he says he's getting to the point where he's seeing that they're not grumpy and they're nice, and so I think you're right with keep captive breeding them and getting in that line, where you can get them to that point,
That's always going to help more captive bred work with anyway.
Something I think the people that keep retics but don't breed them don't realize how long it takes with a retic to get a line to that point. Because they take, when you're holding back those females, it's 4 years, until pretty much at that point on average, you're getting to get to each step of the project. So it takes a long time, and Kevin just posted that video with his gorgeous high white where he had it out and, out and about, and the thing was as calm as could be.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he just got away with animals too. That's just amazing. I mean, what he can do with animals is unbelievable.
I always tell people, if I ever was to get a water monitor, there's, I would pay whatever price he was asking. There is a way he has when you get a one from him. So,
yeah, I mean, when you show videos of baby baby monitors, and they're wanting to come out the cage and climb on you and love on you. I mean, the way he's social, got him so social now from just generations of breeding is amazing with them things, you know. So,
and it's not easy to do with monitors. I don't think people realize like how much of a gift that is to have him to the point where he is. Because I had someone complaining about his prices, and I was like, find me another guy that has those available if you're going to complain about his prices, because it takes
right.
a lot of work. It's not like a snake where you're trying to get a monitor to like not be afraid of you. They cannot be afraid of you and be nasty. So with snakes, it tends to be a defensive reaction, but I mean, he is literally getting those things to just fully trust him. He's got to be spending a ton of time with them. It's really impressive.
Right.
Oh yeah, he has to be, yeah.
And he does it personally from what I've heard. So that's, you know, a lot of credit to that guy.
Oh yeah, I've seen videos where he's on his back porch with a bucket full of babies and just holding them, and you know, it's just crazy, dude. But I mean, that's why he gets what he gets for them, though. You know, and it's that hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, the prices show it, and he's going to get what they're worth because, yeah, I mean,
they're worth everything you're paying. Yeah,
you know, I mean, you're not getting a wild caught monitor from underground reptiles, you know, that it's got who knows what in it. You know, you're getting something that's quality. You know. If it's even a water monitor, hell, it might be a tegu. They said, who knows? But I mean,
yeah, you'll never know what you're gonna get.
You know, and it's he's one of the, like I said, he's the only person if I was to get one, he would be it. It doesn't matter what he was charging, he would be the one. So
yeah, and then you know the black dragons are nice too, man. You know, I think that's just a big misconception with a lot of animals though, because if you look at Mega from Megaconda, you know, I mean, she probably don't weigh 100 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, and she's got these huge anacondas, and she's been keeping them since she's been 15 years old, and she handles them, and you know, it just takes that myth away that, you know, not everything is the bad, you know, like a pit bull. A pit bull is going to chew you up and be mean to you. You know, it's just one of them things that gets put out there that
exactly.
You know, I mean, you know, and that shows with what she has too. You know.
Exactly. It's the same type of thing with you know, a pit bull. It's the same thing with retics. They got that label, and they still do. So people put them in a cage. They never handle them, and then they're like, "Oh, it's mean because it's a retic." And it's like, no, it's mean because you never worked with it.
Right.
Exactly.
If you get a retic when it's young, and you handle it all the time, it's going to be calm when it's an adult. So it's just, I've never seen one where you put in the work from when it's a baby, you do it right. And you know, the other thing I see a lot of is someone takes a retic, a baby, they put it in a 6-foot cage, and they're like, "Oh, why is it so mean?" It's like, well, you know, it's a way too big a cage and doesn't feel secure anywhere it is. So,
yeah, mine's a year old, and I just put her in a 4-foot enclosure, just upgraded her, and she was in there for 2.5 weeks. I ended up taking her back out and putting her in a 41 quart tub because, and she's big enough for it. She just wasn't ready, you know. So you got to read your snakes, you know. And that's where I used to say, these people that look at us and say, yeah, that retic or that Burmese should be in a goddamn enclosure twice that size. Then you go get it out of that enclosure because you have to read your snake. I mean, they'll let you know, they could be the nicest snake in the world. You go from a 4-foot to an 8-foot, it might be grumpy. I mean, you have to read your animals, you know, and that's what people don't understand. Well, people
don't care, yeah. And that's the cool thing with retics. Some, like, I've had a snake where, you know, it's at 4 feet, you could put it in a 20-foot cage and it wouldn't care. And I had some that never really want to get moved up to an 8-foot. So it's like every individual one, just like people, they have different points where they're confident or they're really not, you know, because they get really nervous in the open and people they don't really understand that. So
yeah, for sure. Well, like you're saying about messing with them, though, I try to tell it to everybody. They're like, "Why is my snake mean?" It's like, well, because you only open the tub to feed it. If you open the tub like 6 times in between you feed it to play with it, it's never going to have those reactions. You know, it's like, you know, if the only time you ever interact is to feed it, then how are you surprised it's not, you know, like this? You know, it's crazy. People just assume it's just going to happen, and it's like, no, you got to put the work in.
Yeah, you have to handle them. With some snakes, it's like, you know, you really don't. But with the retics, they're one of the ones where it's like, yeah, you got to handle this one a lot.
So they're asking you when you're going to open your own facility to the public in Vegas.
That's something we're not 100% sure at. It's something me and my wife are kind of looking at right now. We're kind of waiting for prices here on property to dip a little bit further with everything going on. And then we're going to kind of have an update on all that. But that's something we'll be keeping everyone updated with on our channel. So as we go along.
Right on. Yeah.
Exactly, Dylan. Dylan says an enclosure isn't a prison; it's a cage. They still need exercise. Exactly. I take mine, outside, and when it's warm, and they love it out there. But if not, I mean, I let them in the house, and it's right. I mean, that's their safe zone. You know what I mean? When they're in their enclosure or wherever they're living, I mean, and it's the same way with like I tell people with big lizards. They get a baby lizard and they want to put it in this giant goddamn thing, and they're wondering why it's mean because that's just way too big for it, and then when it's in a safe spot, don't go up there and try to grab it out of there. You got to let that thing come to you and get social with you. I mean, monitors are weird too, but I mean,
it's something. It's my wife has a great saying. She says to everyone where it's like, people assume these things are dogs.
Yeah,
they get a retic and they treat it like it's a dog, and it's not a mammal. It's completely different in the way that it reacts and what it wants. They treat like you're putting a dog in a cage and leave it in there. So that's really not what's happening.
So I noticed on your social media, your wife's tons of pictures of her on there holding snakes. So was she into snakes before she met you, or?
Yeah, actually, we met at Jay's place. So
cool. Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Right on.
She's huge into king snakes, colubrids and all that, and she knows far more about health issues with snakes and all that. Whenever anyone sends me a question, she's the one answering you on social media. So because she knows a lot more about that side of it than I do. She used to teach vet tech classes and all sorts of stuff. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I noticed you have colubrids too then, because I've seen some pictures of them. So I mean,
she's something I'm learning. She knows a lot more about them than I do personally.
I mean, it looks like you pretty well mess with about everything. I mean, I've seen colubrids and tarantulas and everything.
Oh, she deals with those. That's the one area I draw the line right there. So I get creeped out, but those are hers. Every photo, that's her hand. They're not getting on my hands.
That's funny. He's like, nope. You mean 25-foot snake? No problem. But
she keeps the scary stuff, the scorpions, tarantulas. That's all hers. So.
That's crazy. My wife's the same way. She hates those things. She's like, man, I can't believe you own those. I only got a couple scratches, but yeah, she hates them.
I don't know what it is, but it's like there's something about them. I get creeped out every time they crawl out. It's like, not for me. But
I mean, you can read a snake. You can't read what a tarantula is going to do. That's something which might. I mean, scorpion same way.
Sure, you can.
A scorpion just going to sting. Yeah, I mean, a scorpion is stinging just too.
Like, I can,
Yeah.
But she can always tell me I can't read it, but she'll always be like, it's about to kick hairs, or it's ticked off, and I can't tell anything. So.
They have their signs, and you can tell too which is which. If it's an old world or a new world, it's like, you'll know right away if it's pissed at you. You're gonna know.
Oh yeah.
Snakes. It's about where my experience ends with. So.
That's right. If you want to work with tarantulas and stuff, you'd want to work with No Fear Tarantula or Dean's Tarantulas or somebody like that. They know if I want to work with snakes. So. Yeah,
I used to be terrified of snakes too. It's pretty funny. So.
Really.
People don't tend to believe that, but I used to be petrified of them. So for a long, long time.
Wow,
but I notice a lot of people in the hobby that's even got big collections. They'll tell you, I was terrified of snakes, and I would rather seen them dead, or their first snake they got, they pretty much wrapped chains around its damn enclosure because they was afraid it was going to a little ball python was going to get out and kill them, and then now they got 200, 300 snakes. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was actually Brian Barczyk's first old channel before he got huge. It was like Snake Bites TV.
Snake Bites. Yeah.
That's what got me into like being over. Like I started watching his videos to desensitize myself, and I'm like, oh wait, there's different colors, and I got all into the breeding side of it. So from there.
Yeah, I think he did change a lot of people over, and then not only that, when somebody that's a little leery about him, if they go and look at a bunch of ball pythons, it's hard for them to understand that it's all the same snake, that this is just a pied, or this is a banana, or this is a Mojave. They think they're all different It's really just the same snake, just different, more,
I was telling that to my buddy the other day. I was like, showed him the little normal I got. I was like, this is everybody's ball python, but these are all different, but they're all still the same snake. What?
Right.
How does that work? It's like, well, they're all the same. They just got genes that, the Mother Nature hides, and we're trying to bring them all out. It's like.
Yeah, whenever we have people over, they're always like, "Oh, so they're different species," and it's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Just tell your buddy the same reason that you're Irish and Scottish, and you got 20
That's
genes
what I
in you
told
too.
I said it's changing. I said, you look around at the pet stores now, it's like there's tons of lizards now. They got all these colors, and they're starting to I always tell it, the best way to explain it to people is like, have you ever seen like a wild, white and black mouse running around wild? It's like they're usually always gray, most of the time. And it's like, and you can even have a white mouse, but as soon as they go breeding out in the wild, you let them go, all their babies are going to be gray, but you can breed that back out and get back to the color, they're like, what? And they kind of understand it more if I give them the rodent speech kind of thing. So it kind of helps them understand it a little bit.
Yeah. When you talk about anytime you compare it to a mammal, I think people kind of get it a little faster.
It helps. Yeah. It's like, cause I can take this colorful mouse, let it go. And this baby sooner or later, are all going to be gray, no matter what, just cause Mother Nature's going to hide them, it's like, and then they kind of understand a little bit more.
So do you breed rodents?
I do. I've cut back now since we moved to our new house. But it's something that I'm going to be expanding. But yeah, I do breed some of them here for anyone that doesn't. Most of my snakes take frozen, which is awesome. But for any of them that don't, we got live here that for them.
Right on.
Just
rodents, or do you do rabbits or anything else, or?
No. That's something that would be awesome, but yeah, so it's an expensive bill every month, the rabbit bill. But it's with rabbits I tried it once and they were a little harder to breed than I realized at first, and then one of my snakes got out and ate the pair. It was when me and my wife were dating, and it was like her pair, and I always say it's amazing she married me after that. Because she was in love with these 2 rabbits, and my snake ate it because I was an idiot. And she still married me, so I got lucky on that end.
Wow, that's a crazy story. It's like, oh yeah, I used to have 2 rabbits, but my husband's snake ate them.
But that's kept in her back pocket till she really wants something that you're going to say no. I don't think you need to pull it out.
She's laughing from the other room. She knows it.
Yeah, she's going to pull it out and use it one day. Like, no, I really want this. And be like, no. You'd be like, you remember when the rabbits got killed? All right, you can have that Corvette. Okay.
Get that car.
Yeah.
Get what you want. It's cool.
Oh, it was like we woke up super early in the morning to rabbits screaming. And for anyone that has fed rabbits to a retail, it doesn't sound like a rat sound. So
you'll never forget that sound.
No, yeah. It's a pretty intense. Intense sound.
You were talking to Moto Danger about that just the other night, weren't you? About
he was feeding live rabbits. I'm like, I can't believe you. He goes, I said, well, number one, I can't believe you feed them live because, they can tear a snake up, a live rabbit can, and
it's something I don't do unless I have to do it. That's something I always tell people, like, you want to avoid that. They think of rabbits as can't be able to do anything. Oh, they can. And that's why we feed all frozen rabbits.
They're strong. Yeah, rabbits got strong back legs.
Yeah. But that's something we feed pretty much all frozen, and very, very rarely we'll have to get alive. So.
Right. Yeah. See, most of my snakes eat live. My retics eat frozen solid, but I breed my own rodents. But what I like about it is if they don't eat, I can go put it back out in the tub. You know what I mean? So I don't have no waste that way either. So.
See, I still think that's how you get the crazy rats, man. I really do. Because you put that rat back and that son bitch knows. So when you go reach in there, he's definitely afraid he's going to be the next one. The one that jumps the worst is that one that was left in the tub last. You know what I mean? That little skittish one in the corner, he's already been in a snake tub before. It's like, you can tell which ones that you've had, that I've had to put back, You can tell they're a whole different rodent after that. That's funny. Or not funny, but I mean,
they talk to you too, If you pick them up, they squeal and everything. Be like, they know what's going on. They're pissed. Like, no,
Well, especially an African software rat, because they'll hunch up and want to fight. They got both hands out. They're ready. They're like, they're leaning back. Like, what do you want? It's like they're ready to go.
I've seen videos of those guys. Yeah.
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 You feed any African
they'll jump right up.
No, I'm actually planning on starting to breed those because when I was in California, they were illegal. So I never bred them. But now that I'm out here, that's something I'm absolutely going to be.
Oh, yeah, there's funky little suckers. You could tell. It's funny because I'll open up a drawer, and there's that one that's standing back there already that's ready to go. It's like, oh, so you've already been in a snake tub, haven't you? It's like, yep. It's funny. It cracks me up. You can just tell.
But there is, you know, I mean, that's with ASFs. I mean, you can have a colony that are perfectly friendly and tame, and then the next colony just assholes, dude. You know, I mean.
Rob is the only one I know of out of all of our YouTube friends that I think that's got nice ASF rats.
Oh, Donnie's got some too. They're nice. He can reach right in there and mess with them.
Well, that's because he leaves 100 of them in the bin.
Well, yeah. It's true. But I mean, he's got.
I can reach in and kind of pet them and stuff, but they're still they're nippy little suckers, man. They'll get you. They're you can't read them neither.
Oh, I've heard they're way
you'll
worse.
Be petting one and they'll turn right around and get you. Yeah.
Some people say that they're worse than a mouse, and I hate mice.
Oh, yeah. I hate. See, I've never been bit by my mice. Never.
Oh man,
I've taken. Weird.
Yeah, my rats, because my wife has the rats like all calm and cool, but the mice they don't like me.
Man, see, my rats don't like me. The mice are fine. They don't care.
An African sulfur is a mouse.
My rats. Well, it is a mouse. It is a mouse. But
yeah.
I mean, they got a lion attitude. Let me tell you what, because they'll stand up. It's like they'll put their dukes up. They're ready to go, man. I mean,
well, they're like an Ackymonder.
They want to fight, man. Yeah,
you know,
they want to.
An Ackymonder is little, but it thinks it's a goddamn watermonder when it eats. You know, you're just cool looking. But an African sulfur is little, but it thinks it's big too. They'll come at you for sure.
Oh yeah. You reach into a tub, you know, it's got 6 or 8 of them in there, and they're all back there on their hind legs. You're getting bit if you're trying to get one. Usually I'll grab the hook and disturb them out of their little boxing trance, you know, move them out of the way, and then when they start running, then I'll grab a tail, because when they're in boxing mode, man, they're ready. They're ready. I know people think that's funny, but it's not funny. I mean, anybody that owns them will know. I used to get the hook and knock them out of their, boxing stance, and then snatch them by the tail. You got to, man. They're mean. They're mean.
But I don't see them, you know, with feeding. When I feed rats or African sulfurs, the rat puts up more of a fight than the ASF ever does.
Oh,
I mean, once they get hit, they just kind of like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, there's not a lot left to them. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the rat'll, if it's got any kind of will, it'll try, you know. So
rabbits are the same way. Rabbits don't quit. That's why I hated feeding live. But
well, see, that's why I told you that, I told the story the other night about trying that gerbil that one time, that big gerbil for my my ball python back in the day. That gerbil jumped right up, smacked that snake's head on the top of the cage. It took him a couple times to get it down, because them gerbils got nasty little back legs. I think it just stunned the snake, because he jumped up, smacked the snake's head, and it was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
I've never tried a gerbil ever again.
Said those are the meanest in her opinion. So.
They got those little kangaroo back legs too, man. They're mean little suckers.
Oh,
one of those situations, like if you tried everything, it's like, well, I don't know, I'll go try a gerbil or something.
Yeah,
it was like,
Moto, you've been so lucky. He's never had a problem with the rabbit, you know. But man, I've seen nightmare stories.
Scream a little bit one time, but other than that, he says they really don't make no noise.
I mean,
it's like,
I know so many people that has had a problem.
Yeah, their wounds take a long time to heal when you get kicked. I don't know if it's the bacteria they're in, because I've been kicked by them. You know, had like a little puncture wound, and then it took forever to heal.
Yeah, that's probably true. He says probably because I get them from the Amish, they handle them all the time, so they're used to getting messed up as pets, you know. So
yeah, I get mine from a guy that breeds them for food, so it's a whole different. But I get them pretty much frozen. At Jay's, I had to pre-kill them all, but
really,
I had to pre-kill a whole bunch of them all the time for people, and you get over that fast. But first couple times, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, damn.
Yeah.
He said he has a problem with rats.
So, but Jay did he order all his stuff for him, or?
It says they're meat rabbits.
Oh yeah. He had a guy that would come by like once a week for rabbits, and then Rodent Pro supplied him on the other stuff, which is who I use for all my frozen too. So for the most part.
Have you ever fed pigs?
Actually, it's what I just switched to because there's a huge rabbit shortage right now where I'm at. So there's some disease that wiped out a whole bunch of breeder stuff. So I've had to make like we're only feeding pigs right now. So
where do you get them from?
Actually, El Segundo pythons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was in a tough spot trying to find rabbits, and then I was like, I saw them post, and it was like, yeah, I need those. So then they're great.
I didn't know if you got them from monster feeders or whatever, because I know they sell them too. So, and rabbits.
Jeff, I just drive out, and the way they package those is absolutely amazing. Like there's no shit on them. There's nothing. Like they're clean as can be, wrapped in butcher paper. The way they present those is like top quality. So
does he just sell local or does he ship?
Local right now, and I think they said
welcome.
They're gonna figure out the shipping thing pretty soon.
Oh, that's awesome. So
yeah.
What's he got? He goes from small ones up to whatever size. Then I take it.
Yeah, I think it's 1 to like 5 pounds he's got.
See, again,
I don't like to feed big meals, so I don't do a whole lot of.
I don't think I ever want to make a rabbit order, not because I mind the rabbits. I don't want the bill or a pig order. I don't want to have to make any of those orders. I'm good with rats, you know.
I didn't think
ball pythons.
I didn't think the prices were that bad on them, to be honest with you. I mean, it's only like, I mean, I see most people like a couple dollars a pound or something like. I mean, it wasn't expensive, you know.
My rabbits, when I get it from my main guy, they're $5 for any size I want. But I'm buying in bulk, so I'm buying 100 rabbits or more at a time. So, but that's usually that's pretty good deal. So it just depends on who you're getting them from. I always say don't buy them from a pet store. The markup on those. When you're buying a feeder rabbit from a pet shop, that is pricey.
Oh yeah. Well, even the rats and shit around here are ridiculous. You try to go to the feeder places and shit. It's like $13 for a jumbo rat. It's like $13.
Yeah. So I mean, really, you think about it.
African software rat. You're gonna charge me $13?
That's not a bad price because if you order rats, I mean, they're not cheap either. I mean, or if
that's why I'd rather do African software rat. It's twice the protein, that little son of a bitch.
Christine, did you order pigs from monster feeders, or is that where you just ordered from? Because she said she just ordered pigs from him, and I don't know if she meant
10 any size, and I order 2.5 pounds.
Yeah, monster feeders. I've personally never ordered, but I've heard a lot of good things.
Oh, El Song. Yeah. Oh, she getting them from El Song. Yeah, he's shipping them too. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, he started, and they were great. And he's always able to fill any size order, which is when you got a large collection, that is huge. So.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You get a collection like that, it's like you can't find no rodents. It's like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, when I've had the
neighborhood cats are in trouble. No, I'm just
kidding. I've had the same rabbit guy for a long time, and then when he finally was like, I can't fill your order, it was like, oh, that's you get that momentary freak out. But
I don't know. There's a Craigslist. There's always people getting rid of animals on Craigslist. So.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do,
Oh, just a pet for my daughter. I'll take all 20.
Yeah.
I just want them for pets. Give me all 20.
Yeah, it's like how big are they?
Wait, what's the poundage on those?
Yeah, it's like I'll take the whole litter. It's fine. Doesn't matter what they are. If they're breeding.
But I mean, there's people on Craigslist around here that they outside of Africa, but they offer them as and they'll say either meat rabbits or feed rabbits, and that's how they sell them.
Yeah.
So I mean.
Well, that's what Moto said his word too, was the meat rabbits.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Welcome, my friend.
How's it going?
But, yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, if a guy had the space to do his own breeding with his, to sustain, and then even like Dylan. I mean, they do quail and rats, and they're doing their dubia roaches and all that in house. So that's saving a big ton of money,
And quail are
you're breeding retics. You scale it to your own shit. Your snakes are this big, like I got ball pythons to breed rats. You got retics, you breed rabbits. Everything's going to be bigger. It's craziness.
Well, and you could actually get retics on rabbits pretty early with the kits, when they have fresh babies. I mean, they're not that big.
No, and I always recommend that because some of them don't like to eat rabbits when they get older. And you're stuck feeding them chickens, which is not fun to clean up after. So if you start them on rabbits,
and there can't be much in a chicken, though. I mean, well, depending on how big the chicken is, but still, there ain't much to them.
Yeah, you got to feed more chickens, and it's just when it comes out, anyone who's fed chickens knows what I'm talking about. It is a whole different cleanup than your standard cleanup. So
yeah,
I don't want nothing to do with that neither. I've opened up some tubs about knocking me out with just ball pythons. I don't want nothing to do with some.
Oh yeah, the smell is different.
I know, I'm good.
Whole another, yeah, you know.
These are like chicken poop is the worst. He
knows what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah, he's got a lot of Burmese pythons. He's had retics too, but he does a lot of Burmese. So, yeah, he knows. Do you feed quail at all? Have you fed quail?
It's something I do for picky eaters, you know. And now I have some quail I like bought off a guy that couldn't use them, but I use quail for like if a retic for some reason is being a stubborn eater, feed them quail and they go crazy. So either chicks or quail, and that'll always get them started. Anything that's a bird. So
you do that live or frozen thawed?
Frozen thawed if I can, and I've literally had snakes that won't take a live rat, that'll take a frozen quail. So I really don't like, you know, feeding live unless I have to, especially with younger snakes. But you know, with picky eaters, I prefer to go to quail before I go to mice. So
I hear you. Hell yeah.
Nice.
So what's your
that's crazy.
I mean, how do you determine the size you feed?
So I go a little bit bigger, you know, the standard, you know, 1.5, I like to go a little bit smaller. So I like to feed something a little bit more frequently. That's about the diameter of the actual snake. So there's some articles I've read where it talks about, you know, when they found a way, it was like a college to measure their blood pressure, and the bigger meals cause a huge spike in blood pressure. So I just always I'd rather feed small meals more frequently than big meals all the time. So.
Well, I think it's easier, you know, they digest them easier, and then you can feed. I mean, you might feed them more often, but I mean, it's done. I think, you know, I think it makes sense than trying to do a big meal for 2 or 3 weeks, you know, or whatever it is, you know. I mean, you know, if you're feeding something really, I mean, I know when I get to a certain point, you know, regardless, but I mean,
yeah, it's something I always like to do, and it always depends on the snake too, because some retics have a very fast metabolism and some have a very slow. It's like people. So some of them you got to feed them a lot, no matter how old they are, and some you got to be careful to keep fat off them. So
I used to have a very fast metabolism when I was younger. As I'm older, it's not so fast no more. For some reason.
I see that we got all the snakes right quick there. Same with the birds. Chickens are nasty. Done that.
Yeah, same with birds.
I know what I'm talking about with the chickens.
That's funny.
I always say it's the grossest thing. I could handle any kind of smell when I was working for Bob, and the only thing that got me to be sick was a Regert's chicken that was left over a weekend. So, that's it. So,
yeah,
that does not sound attractive at all.
You know, Dylan said too. You know, he's had to do that a few times, but you know, he says the thing he don't like about it is, you know, you trimming their spurs and their beaks because that can be harmful to the snake. Yep. You know, I mean. So it's a lot more work too, you know.
A lot more work, and it's the same thing I try to do with like a mouse's front teeth, and so I don't like feeding mice. Is because when they regurge that, you know, it's a lot more coming up that can scratch actually the inside of them, which is a huge problem. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's why I always prefer, you know, that's why the pigs I've been really happy with actually. So.
Yeah, I mean, because that all goes back. People go, well, in the wild. I'm like, yeah, but we're not keeping them in the wild, so. And you don't know if that snake didn't eat something and something happened and it go die somewhere, you know what I mean? So, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. So.
I mean, what's up, Venom?
Venom, wonderful. I love chickens.
He goes, I love chickens and my reptiles.
My reptiles do too.
They love them. That's one thing. They love to eat them. I just don't like cleaning it. So.
You didn't feed no turkey for Thanksgiving like Brian Barczyk?
Oh, I didn't even see. Did he do that?
Oh,
his anaconda finally got one finally.
Oh, wow. The turkey? Wow.
Yeah. I forget how big he said it was. 20 pounds, 18, 20 pounds, something like that.
I'll have to go check that out. That is awesome.
You know, he's tried for years with his big retics and they would never do it, you know. I mean, pretty well struggled for 12, 15 hours, but.
Well, yeah, he's done that a couple times, and it just sits there for hours trying to eat this damn big old turkey. Oh, I guess it's not going to be able to.
It only took 3 years. Well, that anaconda is a lot big. I mean, I think that would be something that they do eat more in the wild. Big birds like that, you know what I mean? So,
yeah,
but
I think they're way more wired to eat bigger meals than a retic is. So
the only thing he said, he come in the next morning, he didn't get to film it.
Venom said he loved grilled and fried chicken.
He said the tank that he has them in, the big waterfall, was just destroyed and nasty, dude. So, I could imagine that the cleanup on that was just terrible.
Yeah, I would not have been wanted to have been the guy that did that. So
and not even that, he didn't even pooped it out yet. That's just from eating it. So
yeah, the second half of that, because they don't digest feathers and stuff. So that's the fun part of chickens. That's one thing they don't digest. So all that gets to come out with it. So.
He said all that gets to come out with it like a surprise, he said.
Really,
that killed me. He's all, it comes right out with it. Oh, that was good.
That's great. So any advice you give somebody new getting into the hobby that's wanting to keep, retics or ball pythons, anything to...
Other than run.
Yeah.
With retics, the thing I always say is make sure you're stable in life is always something I say. Bringing a ball python across the country is one thing, but moving around with a retic everywhere, it's why it ticks some people off, but I don't sell to people that are under 18, for even if their parents are like, unless their parents say, yeah, we're going to take care of it after he's gone. But if they don't say that, I don't sell to anyone under 18 for that reason. And, do your research, kind of make sure you have the ability to care for them later. They take a lot more, expenses than other species to keep, the larger snakes, and they take a lot of respect. So even the calmest snake in the world can be dangerous in the wrong circumstance. That's always something is, be prepared when they're an adult. Don't get it as an impulse, That's kind of,
I see that a lot with the big snakes.
They don't think about what it's going to be later. They think, oh, it's cool now, but it's like you don't realize what are you going to do when it's 15 foot or something. It's like you got to think about that.
Exactly.
Shit,
and it's we always say we want our snakes to be there for their whole life, preferably. With one home, we don't always like to see them move around to 8 different homes. So it's be ready to have that snake, and they're long lived. They're potentially 30 years.
If you don't power feed them and overweight, they'll live to be a long time. Exactly. That's the thing. People just pound them full of food, and I think it shortens their lifespan.
Oh, it does. I've seen it probably about 10 years old. I think if you really power feed, you're looking at about 10 years, 8 to 10 years lifespan on that animal, which sucks. And that's why, it's like if you take care of them, you're looking at 25, 30 years.
Right.
All the original retics I started out with, I have all of them, and it's amazing to watch them grow. You just got to be prepared. They're always going to have a food response. You got to do your research, because there's people that keep other species that'll tell you like, oh, feed them outside the enclosure. It's something you never want to do with a retic. That is the most dangerous situation you can put yourself in, is doing that. So it's, always respect what they are. And some people treat them like, oh, it likes me, it won't do anything. You got to treat it like what it is. It's an apex predator, and you got to give them that respect at all times.
Well, for sure.
Right. I mean, for sure. And that's, I think that's what I think with the big snakes, why a lot of people, or people buy them as an impulse as a baby. And then when they get 8, 9, 10 foot, they get scared. Yeah. And then you see so many of them for sale. So, I mean, I don't recommend them as the first time pet for people.
No,
I got a Burmese. That was my first pet back in the late 80s, a normal Burmese. And I had it for a long time,
It works for some people, but I always say for most people, because there's some retic breeders out there that I've seen like, oh, they make perfect first snakes, and they really don't. They are not, because you need to get used to how they are. I always say the best, if you want to get a retic, get a carpet python, get used to that, and then get a retic. So that's
see you, J-Dog. Thanks for hanging out, buddy.
But yeah, that's kind of the primary thing I always say, because it's like every bad bite I've had was a snake that I was like, oh, this is a cool snake, I'm not going to be cautious. It's very rare I've ever been bit by a mean snake that I know is going to be mean.
Right. Or it's something I did wrong, reach my hand in there for some dumb reason or whatever,
Yeah. Every bite I could pick was like, oh, I need a hook, but yeah, or something like that, and then I got smoked. So it's almost never the ones that you expect, to be. So.
And I even getting mine from Jay, they were social as babies. I still, and he already had them hook trained, tap trained, and I kept that up with them, so they do know, and I think that's important. Just a little head rub or a little body rub, they, what a world of difference,
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't. I think I would, I don't, just not for a first pet. Most people, I don't think they're, because it's a lot different. A Burmese or a retic is way different than a ball python that's going to go in a ball and do whatever. They're not going to do that. You know what I mean?
No, they're really not. They're completely different snakes, and you kind of got to learn how they're going to be. They're very different than Burms outside of their food response. And I always say, like, people will be like, oh, they're very similar. They're very different, and retics are a lot faster. They don't have a very particularly fast strike, but their movement speed is what catches people off guard. So it's always something to keep in mind. And, especially when you get into breeding, you deal with males and stuff, that it's less now with more captive bred stuff, but males can still be very territorial, and you got to be ready for that if you want to breed. Because those are the bad bites. I've been bit by 18-foot females and, wiped off the blood, gone back to work, and I've had 10-foot males really mess up my day. So.
Yeah, they get a little grumpy, I heard, during breeding season. So.
Yeah, and it's, you can literally have a 10-foot male split you open where you got to, go get stitches, and it looks like, someone stuck a knife in you. It's not like a snake bite. It's like a straight slash. So it's pretty, yeah. My first one, I didn't even know something had happened. It was so sharp, I didn't even feel it. That was the crazy thing. I was like, oh, cool, I didn't get bit. And then I looked down, I was like, ah, crap. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, when I take my retics outside, they're still small. I mean, of course, for being a year, but they're still, they're 6-7 foot or whatever, but they move so fast, dude, in the grass. I mean, when they want to go, they go, But, I mean, it's fun. I like letting them go out there and get that exercise. But, yeah, if you don't pay attention, I mean, they're gone.
Oh, 1 second. Hey, honey, do you mind if you grab my phone charger from upstairs? It's by my bed. Thank you. Sorry, I just had to make sure my phone didn't die.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, retics should be experienced keepers only.
Yeah. And, with ball pythons, I just always say, listen to the people out there. There's so many good sources. Justin Kobilka does a ton of videos. There's so many people that find the right people. Educate yourself, because while they can be great beginner snakes, I always say their care can sometimes be almost intermediate, just because you got to make sure you got the right temps. You want to keep them from being sick. So just do your research on those too. It's not like getting a dog where they're just fine, and there's so many good resources on those. It's crazy. So I get caught for sure. Justin's videos particularly, man, I'll like lose hours on those. So.
Yeah, because what he's producing is insane. So.
Oh yeah. Just gonna move locations real quick. Oops. But yeah, I couldn't believe that new one he just came out with too. Hey, can you call the dogs, honey? Oops. Sorry. But yeah, so it's that's just kind of the thing. But with retics too, there's a ton of videos on how to handle them, how to work with them. So once you kind of get all that down, it's something that they can be a really manageable, really enjoyable species. But know the size of the line you're working with. Whether you want to work with locality super dwarfs or small mainlands, know the size of the parents, know what you expect, and be ready for that maximum size. So,
for sure. DMJ, welcome, sir.
Yeah, because I eventually want to get into the super dwarfs as well. I want to do the same project. I want to do super dwarf cows, and I know that's something that's kind of fairly new. People are doing it. I know it's pretty high priced right now. So
yeah,
but like Garrett said, you could get a phantom male for $5,000, and you could breed it to a couple females, and if you go by the odds, half that clutch is going to be phantoms, and then hopefully half of them would be females. So if you hold them back and breed them, and then say you had 2 feet, that's 8 to 10 females you're breeding, have babies off of them, and sell, the money you make off of them, you could get into your orange ghost stripe, and then, produce
That's
$250,000 that year.
Money for a snake.
Yeah, but I mean, you think about it though, over the time, like you said, if you do what the prices would be, and you do it that way, and then get into that orange ghost stripe female just from selling your phantom stuff, that first year you're looking at, $250,000 in sales, I mean, he breaks it way down into what it would be at, and he goes, and that's cheaper than spending 10,000 on a female right now. That's, you got to wait 4 years to do anything with. Get the male first, let it be making you money. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And there's a ton of really cool ways if you're trying to like be on a budget, you can get into projects. I actually started out my anthrax with a het, so I was making POS hets, and through learning how to pick those out, I was able to get to the point, because I didn't want to sink, at the time, a ridiculous amount of money into it. So it's, there's all sorts of really cool little ways that you can come up with projects, and it just depends. As Jay used to say, it's when do you want to make it? How patient are you? That's always what he would ask people, that I absolutely loved. So I love that question.
Well, that's why with my mainland cow project, of course, I would love to hold every cow back, and I can't do that, but I'm going to hold a couple back, and then of course, orange ghost stripe's good to have. But if I take the sales off of them, that could go back into buying then that super dwarf line. So you're just selling to invest back into something else, and that's the way to do it, so I got to be patient to do it. But, I mean, so what,
Exactly. That's kind of how I've done all my projects. It's a great kind of way to do it. It was like when I made, right now I'm like probably 9 months away from super dwarf anthrax. And when I started that project, I was able to sell half of them, as super dwarfs, and just left off what they actually were, and kind of make my money doing that to pay for the project. So there's super dwarf head anthrax is floating out there. People don't know about it.
Well, man, $5,000 sounds, I buy a Honda, but that $5,000 eventually turned you into hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, and that's,
I'm about a Honda too.
I mean, what's a cow super dwarf worth,
Yeah.
I mean, right now, $20,000 probably.
Yeah, and super dwarfs, people are getting that money. The super dwarf market's considerably healthier than the mainland market at the moment. So it's one of those things with super dwarfs, you can actually still, kind of sell stuff for really high prices out there. So
because it's limited to how much availability there is too,
Yeah. I mean? And there's the whole trust factor too with super dwarfs is there's, not a lot of people that are trustworthy with them. So if you become one of those guys, you can sell it for a lot of money, because so many people have been caught in really bad stuff with super dwarfs. So it's, that's why Garrett can charge what he does for them. And, it takes a long time to kind of establish a line, and that's part of the price too. They do not breed till 4 or 5 years. They do not go early, and you can kill them very, very easily by trying to breed them like you do in mainland with power feeding, how some people do it. So.
Yeah, he's he's got Aaron Metcalf that's done a couple projects with him with like the Carumbas and stuff or whatever it is. Or it is. Yeah. What a smart kid. I mean, really, he's a young guy, man, and he's got, man, he's full of knowledge too. He just knows so much, and what a nice guy too. I mean,
really nice guy.
And so there's a few people out there that do the good breedings on the super dwarfs, but it's a waiting game, I mean.
It really is. It's with super dwarfs. I always tell people, because I get asked about them a lot, and I always tell them my lines, like, they're usually sold before they leave the egg. So it's just kind of why, they're never in stock, because people always ask that, like, oh, why aren't they at shows? Or it's like, it's hard because they also don't have that many eggs. You're looking at a snake that has ball python size clutches.
Right.
So, that takes 4 years to breed. So
if you get 20 eggs, you got a big clutch,
Yeah.
So.
With super dwarfs, I think my last clutch of them was 6 eggs, and the female was like 5 feet. So that's the kind of stuff, they have very, very small clutches, and it's pretty cool. The eggs are really small.
Right.
But I absolutely love breeding them. They're a little trickier to breed, but once you get it, it's pretty amazing to watch something that small produce retics. So.
Well, yeah, and then Garrett losing half that clutch in his incubator, after they hatched because his incubator failed on him. What a blow to him,
there.
Yeah. But and a few other species too he had in there. But I mean, that was what he was shooting for, him and Aaron, and to work with somebody like Aaron Metcalf and him being understandable, because he's just that type of guy that, hey, instead of getting mad and screaming and yelling and he knows shit like that happens. Well, no, but he knows stuff like that.
What it is.
Yeah.
See you, Venom.
Exactly.
Thanks for coming in, Venom.
But I mean, it's no different.
It happens,
when Bob and Mike had the pied berms. I mean, 25 grand, dude. I mean, right now, I mean, they weren't cheap either, So I mean,
no, and that's bringing the whole berm market back online. And Bob's been very, smart on how he's done the whole thing. The build up to the pied berms has been done really, really well.
Yeah, and it needed to get people more back into it. And I think, the prices helped too, was after they dropped the Lasiac. A lot of people are like, why are they so expensive? Well, because they ain't been around. I mean, a lot of people who used to breed them quit.
Yeah, and we can't import them anymore. So that's
right.
the hitter too, is it's, hopefully it's something we get back, because the way that the lawsuit went is they couldn't use the Lasiac to enforce interstate commerce, but they can still use it as far as you can't send a retic to Puerto Rico because it's outside the continental United States, or you can't send one, Hawaii, you can't have snakes anyways, but hopefully eventually we're able to get them removed and start importing some of the amazing retic morphs out there and berm morphs. So.
Can you ship them out of the country?
Yes, you can. So
you just can't bring them back in.
Yeah, you can export all you want, but you cannot bring them back in. So.
Because I know Bob probably exports a ton of them out of the country, don't he?
Yeah, Bob did, and Jay did all the time. Because I used to run his exports, and that was a huge part of his business, was doing that. So, and now there's places like Reptiles Express, where you can, basically makes it affordable to export one animal because they group people's shipments. It's a really smart thing that they've done over there. Because normally it is a pain in the butt to do by yourself. I used to hate doing exports.
Oh, so Reptile Express does exports now?
Yeah, they don't do it to every country. I think they just got the UK and they do Canada. Basically, they set up a time that they do it. They get a ton of other people, and you split the cost with other people. Because normally, if they don't do one, I always tell people I won't do an export unless you're spending about $2,000. So it's about my cutoff for that.
So what's who used to do it mainly? Delta Dash?
So you actually, it just depends on where you're going. But it's usually we used to ship to Saudi quite a bit. And when we would go there was a specific airline that we would deal with that did all that for us. So it just kind of depends on which country you're using. Delta is usually who you're going to use if it's Canada. But if you're looking at something like China, which we started doing a lot of, Saudi, India, that kind of stuff, it's a whole different ballgame. So.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that with IRS, from the Netherlands, he ships to the United States, and he breaks his shipping down that it's going to be this to the United States, and spending the amount of money and all that, so.
Yeah, it's why when people contact me for one snake, I'll point them in the direction of someone else that's local, because you don't want to export if you're buying one thing. It's really expensive just for the permits and everything, let alone the amount of time it takes. So it's kind of a pain in the butt unless it's a big order. So.
Well, yeah, I seen an interview with Ron from BBM. He's in Puerto Rico, and he said that, like a breeder here would have to have a vet sign off on that the name is this site, and a vet can charge you $25 or he could charge you $200, depending on where. He goes, so you got to go find that right, just to verify the scientific name that you're shipping. That's crazy.
And if something happens and USDA closes before, because you got to be there at 6 a.m, they close at 11. And say if you can't get seen or something, it times out after 7 days, your vet certificate or your health certificate, they call it. So then you got to start the whole process over.
Oh wow!
The whole thing is, one time I had done the whole process, and when Jay signed the bottom, he had signed slightly outside the line, and the vet did too. And just because the end of the signature went outside the line, they made me restart. They were kind of being a jerk about it, but I had to go and restart and spend another 2 weeks getting the whole export ready. So.
Oh wow!
That sucks.
Yeah, because when you go to the Fish and Wildlife inspection, if they don't like anything they see, they can just be like, nope. So we're not signing off on it. So it is a nightmare to do exports. I truly hate it. So.
Do they search everything that you're shipping?
Not everything. It was like usually they'd search one bag, just because they knew Jay, and he's always been kind of above board and everything. So they would usually search just one bag, but sometimes you get an officer where it was like, no, you got to open every single. I had one shipment where it was like 37 snakes or something, and I had to sit there opening every single freaking bag for him. So.
Oh damn, that sucks.
Yeah, they can do pretty much whatever they want to do, and sometimes they're really cool, and sometimes they're not cool about it. So.
Wow, that'd just be shitty to deal with for sure.
Yeah, that was always fun. I used to dread doing it when it was coming up. So
it'd be bad, but I bet there's some good money
that?
though. I mean, I bet there's some pretty good money in importing snakes here though too. Though I mean, DM Exotics, he's been doing it for years with calibrids and stuff. I'm sure he's making some pretty decent money doing it.
Yeah, because you're dealing with other countries' prices at that point, and it depends on where you're going. Some countries are cheaper than us, some are not. So if you're shipping, like Bob did a lot of stuff to Japan, and the prices of a retic there are astronomically different than they are here. So you can have a snake worth $400 here that's worth say $2,000 in somewhere else. So exporting, if you're smart about it, that's where you can start making the actual serious money that a few breeders have managed to do. So.
Because you can sell your snakes for more money there.
Yeah, if you can, ship bulk animals, then I'm sure that's got to be the key to the whole thing. It's like,
exactly.
It's all just one animal. I mean, if you're shipping a bunch of them, that's where the money's at.
Yeah,
but I mean, it probably takes a little bit more to get that import-export license, though, too, don't it? I mean, it takes.
Yeah. It depends on the country. Some countries, it's pretty easy, but I remember we did a shipment to Paraguay that took 6 months just to help them get their license, get everything sent before we were able to even send the actual snakes. So some countries are very, very strict, and there's some you have to either be a biologist or have someone that is a biologist be part of it before you even import it. So
I'll be right back.
That's just insane.
Yeah, it's been there's some places I really like to ship to, and some I don't. So.
Well, I mean, it sounds like the whole export thing in general is just a big pain in the ass for the most part.
Yeah. Well, especially because Fish and Game is not going to be the one that says, oh, it's okay to ship to that country. They'll just be like, okay. So you can sometimes have everything right on your end, and then the customer didn't do their due diligence, and then you ship, and all of a sudden it's a problem. So that's why, Jay taught me to really research everyone's country very, very carefully, because all of a sudden it's like, oh, you got $30,000 of snakes at an airport, and they won't take them. So it can be, a very big deal. You got to really do your research and look at every specific law before you do it, which is always fun. So.
Yeah, that just sounds like a huge nightmare. I mean, it's got to be worth it. I mean, as far as the money for people to do it, but it's like, for you, you're just working there. You're the one's got to put in all the hard damn work. It's like, shit, it sucks. Or when you were there or whatever. But it's like, damn, can't you put this on somebody else?
That's what I used to. I was like, I do not want to drive to LAX tomorrow morning. But it's
this should be rookie work. Put somebody else on this shit. Yeah, that'd be just nuts, crazy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was always hard to get people to stick around, with reptile places. So that's always one of the things.
And I'm sure it's on the other side too. You get that customer. It's like, oh man, I'll pay this and I'll pay this. I just want this, And then it's like, man, you don't know how much I'm paying that bid. And then, I guess if they pay enough money, I guess that everything's worth it. I guess.
Yeah, Jay would do $1,500, I believe, as his cutoff. Before he would be like, okay, we can export. And personally for me, because I don't I don't have it quite as cheap as he does, I do 2,000.
Yeah.
So unless you're spending 2,000, it's just not happening. So.
Yeah, even then, that just seems like a big pain in the ass for sure.
Yeah, and it's just really easy to make a mistake. That was the thing, is it's so easy filling out like the CITES forms and all this different stuff for something to go wrong along the way.
So. Yeah, I bet that's a huge step to even take on something like that. Like, oh, I'll ship it to you. I mean, that's like even me. It was like, I give away a T-shirt or something, and it's like, oh, it was in Canada or something. It's like, oh, $25 to ship that T-shirt. It's like, damn, it only took me $8 to make it. It's like, what the hell, It's like, but
exactly.
It's crazy. So now it's like, hey, you got to be in the U.S. or you're paying the $20 to ship a shirt or something. It's like, it's crazy.
My first one,
I think it's good for some though.
Oh yeah, you can make more money. If I did one export, it usually was more money than the entire rest of the month in sales, by quite a bit. So it's that's where the serious money in reptiles is usually from, is exporting. So.
Right.
You got to get into that serious dollar amount. It's like, man, I ain't doing this shit. It's got to be well worth it. It's a pain in the ass, man. It's like,
and I'm sure people like JKR and people like that, that's where they, they're making some good cash too doing that, themselves too. So.
Especially because he's so far ahead here, but when you start to look at other countries that aren't where we are in ball pythons, he's 20 years ahead realistically. Where they are, it's pretty crazy. So.
And then you get them customers like, oh man, come on, I'll pay this, I'll pay that. You got to do this, you got to do that. So I'm sure it's, if the money's right, it's got to be right, or people wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so here's a good question that we had a discussion on these balls the other night. What's your opinion? Do you with selling breeder females or do not ever sell breeder females as far as ball pythons or even retics?
I never will with ball pythons, ever. So like I always tell people, there's really, unless it's just a stupid amount, like you cannot talk me out of my breeder females, just because of the amount that they're going to give each year. If you're purely looking at it financially, if you look at what they'll make you each year, it never really comes out even, With retics, I've only done it a few times just because I didn't want to have there's an amount I never want to go over. So if I'm getting into a project and say I held back, 4 snakes to make something else, I might look at parting with one that I'm not super attached to. But it's only something I've done, I think, twice ever. So it's not something, either way, I don't really like to do it. So.
Yeah, I was thinking, there's, I could see, if you got like maybe a single gene or something, say you have some offspring that you got one like it or something a little bit better that, I see when people sell them off later down the road. But, like you said, Ozzy from Ozboy says he'll sell them, and JKR says never sell them, So, I mean, it's good to know somebody else's opinion too,
Yeah, I even still have het albinos that I still have.
welcome.
Welcome.
So it's just, I personally never do it. So unless someone's like, hey, I'll trade you 2 yellow belly females for a het albino, then I would do it. But that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, because I was thinking with ball pythons, I see people getting to a point where they kind of want to bring new stuff in and kind of get rid of some of the older. So I can kind of see their point with it there too, But then
it depends on space too, like how much space you got in your plan. So
because with ball pythons,
you can only take so many.
Before you know it, you got a bunch. And you're like, oh shit,
Yeah, if you're limited space and you want to get into bigger and better things, you're if you're limited, you're gonna have to get rid of some at some point.
Exactly. So it just it always depends for me. I might hit that point eventually. But if you're purely looking at it financially and you got all the space in the world, I always say keep them.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, everybody's a little different, but it's nice to get everybody's opinion on it too, though. Because
if I was Ozzy and had his stuff, I might be making room with single gene females too. So.
Well, I seen an interview with Ozzy here, a few months ago, and he said, well, he just, he has. They asked him how big a collection he had. And he said, I got a pretty small collection. He said, only got 85 breeder females going this year. I was like, I'm thinking,
I thought he was JKR size. I never knew that.
I was like, that's a small collection, 85 females. I mean, geez, almost 100 females. That's a lot to me.
That's huge.
Well, his stuff is so. I think.
That was all that was going for him that year. But I do know he's into boas too, and a few other species. So, And I know JKR is kind of dibbling in a few other things too. I heard Retic. Somebody was saying that he's kind of getting into. So
I've heard rumors about him trying to get into super dwarfs, but it's more like, you know, with Ozzy, I could imagine someone that's so specific on line breeding all his stuff, because every gene that guy works with, you know, when I made my first Orange Dreams combos, I was stoked until I saw his lines are so good. You know, that seems to be like smaller collections that are more specifically line bred, because that dude, the quality of his stuff is like
shit is clean. Yeah, very clean.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the same gene.
Well, he was, you know, the interview with him was he was saying that this has been the best year for him. His selling year was the best ever this year. He's never made more money than he did in 2020. He said
I would have to agree with that. Yeah.
He sold so much that he was actually selling some old breeder females because he had nothing left.
Yeah.
People were wanting to buy and he had nothing. He sold out, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it was this year, especially when people started to get like the stimulus check and stuff. It was crazy. It was, you know, like people were buying stuff left and right then. So it was pretty wild for a while.
Yeah. You would have never thought that it would have been that good, you know.
No, I was getting, when everything started happening, I was starting to be like, ooh, I hope, you know, got a lot of eggs in the incubator and everything worked out. So.
Right. I mean, it was.
Well, yeah, because everybody was spending time at home. They was getting bored. Had to have something to do, you know, and shit, they're still at home.
But it drove the market up, though.
Oh,
I mean, like I was telling him last year, like around here in Oklahoma, you could buy a Bell, a Blue Eye Lucy for $350, $300. You know, they're $500-$600 now. You know,
yeah.
I mean, it almost doubled everything in price because the market went up so good. You know, so.
Yeah, it's been the whole thing. Like I posted, I can't remember what it was, but it was like a GHI Mojave or something I posted, and someone's like, "Why are you undercutting the market?" It's like I am. You know, this is what I thought they went for. It's been interesting because retics have gone through the opposite lately. The retic market right now is really bizarre, but ball pythons, man, it's been pretty awesome to watch this whole year play out with them.
Right, and that's how I look at, you know, what Mike Wilbanks is selling his ball pythons for, you know. And, you know, I'm a little cheaper, of course, because I'm not Mike Wilbanks, but I can kind of get a feel for the Oklahoma market just from him, you know, and because I know a lot of people in Oklahoma, you know, smaller breeders too, and they're going to base off of a little cheaper than what he sells because, you know, they don't have that big name behind them, but yeah, it's crazy though. But, you know, you can tell if you think it's just a good reference for somebody to know what things are going for, you know.
Oh yeah,
it's
in your local market. So, hell yeah. Did you sell all your babies for 2020?
I just hatched out some more, and then I got some more on the way. But yeah, kind of retic season's kicking off for us right now, but just hatched out kind of my last ball python clutch for a little while. So
when do you start pairing your retics?
Right. It just depends every year. This year we started right now kind of pairing everything together just because of where we were with food and kind of the rabbit shortage. It took us a little while to get everything going. But so we're starting right now, like right now. So we actually just had our first couple big locks going down like last night. So
what's generally the same like ball pythons, October, November? Is that usually starting year or?
You know, it can go anytime from August all the way to November is the start of the big season. It just, with retics, it's all about storms. So you're kind of waiting for that first big storm season. And I've had it happen in August and I've had it take all the way till, you know, almost December. So it just kind of depends when your barometric pressure drops, you know. So as a fisherman, I'm watching that anyways. But when it starts to shift, you'll all of a sudden notice like your females are just going off food, you know.
Well, that could be any time in Oklahoma.
Yeah, so and that's where year-round places like that, you know, it just kind of depends on what you're going off of. But with retics, if you're controlling caloric intake, you can do it any time of year because that's mostly what they're looking for is an uptick in food and constant water. So you got to make sure because they'll go through a big bowl of water every day when they're building follicles. So when they have those two,
I did hear that.
Yeah,
that the water intake, you notice a lot more water. That's a good sign. So
yeah, that's exactly what I want to see, and you want to make sure they're getting that water. You know, because if they run out of water, follicles are, you know, primarily made of water before they turn into eggs. So it's their whole body needs more than what it normally does. So,
yeah,
for sure.
Do you keep big water bowls or do you keep tubs actually for them to get into?
I don't do the tubs anymore, so I just do big water bowls that can stay full for usually about 4 days is the goal. So I have some that I don't like. It just kind of depends on the cage and how the humidity does, because I don't like the humidity above a certain point if I'm gone for 4 days or something. So it just kind of depends on how well that cage holds humidity. Being out here, I can get all the humidity I can get usually, so I kind of need it being very dry out here. So, but it's kind of
I don't have to worry about humidity here, so I'm good on that part.
Oh yeah, I know you're good on humidity all year round.
That's like my ball pythons. I tell everybody keep them on paper towels because, and I'm dripping humidity with paper towels. So if I kept them on Repti-Chip or something like that, it'd be too much for them. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah. Which here it's the opposite because everything's so freaking dry. So.
Right. What do you keep your retics? Do you keep them on paper?
When they're big, yeah. So when they're big, I keep them on paper because it's a nightmare. And I mist down the whole enclosure before I put the paper down, which kind of helps it stick. And then when they're on babies, I do Aspen. I tried Repti-Chip for a while, but the retics just did not dig it. So.
Oh yeah. You use that construction paper or just regular print
Butcher
paper?
Butcher paper is actually what I use. Yeah, you can get it pretty cheap, and it's a little heavier duty, so it stands up pretty well. And then that way too, I can just kind of keep track a little bit easier of everything going on. So.
Oh yeah, good. That's good to know. Yeah. Oh yeah.
You can get those big old cutters for them too. Roll that shit out. Zing.
Yep, which makes life really easy. You got pre-measurements, and then makes cleaning time go really, really fast. So when you got a lot of snakes, you got to do so.
That's got to be my favorite channel. I don't know. I call it Dr. Thick or whatever he is, and he has a jig for everything. I mean, he rolls this paper out, and he cuts all this paper. He had it when he's breeding rodents. He pulled this lever. It dumped the perfect amount of food, for his rodents. And then when he builds his cages, he's got like 6 little handheld routers and all these jigs, and he can pound out an 8-foot cage in it seems like an hour, dude. I mean, it's just all these jigs and templates, I mean, it's just like
templates and jigs are the way to go.
That's how my breeding partner is. Like, he's been finishing the room, and I've only been out to help with it like twice, and he gets it all done and has everything perfectly cut. He can build a cage in 40 minutes. It's crazy to watch. So.
It's cool though, but I mean, when you're building your own stuff, it's good, and that's what he does. I mean, why not? Especially if you got PVC where you can get PVC, that's the big thing,
Yeah.
I mean,
melamine we use a lot, but that is heavy. I just always, when people ask me about the difference, I say, well, are you going to be moving anytime soon? And if the answer is I don't know, don't get melamine. So.
So how do you determine the size of your breeder boxes?
So as far as you mean the cage size or their nest boxes?
They're nest boxes that I see like Jay has for all his retics.
So the way that I do it is I basically measure the width of the cage, and I want it to perfectly snugly fit in the width of the cage because I don't want it moving around. So I basically measure, and I just go about a 1/2 inch shorter the last time I built them, and then we just drop them in and slide it to the cool side. But you want it to be pretty snug fit because I really don't want them moving where that nest box is. Some people do it differently, but the whole thing is that if it's on the hot side and the snake lays, you can actually cook your eggs. So you always want to make sure it stays on the cold side where you put it. So,
what's your general measurements? I mean, as far as the other way, do you just do like a 3x3 or a 2x3 or?
Usually, yeah, because most ours are 3 foot wide. So usually it's going to be about a 2x3, just depending on the size of the snake. Basically, what I'm looking for is you want the snake to be able to curl up in it and fill up kind of the whole box. So that way that's when they feel the most comfortable. If there's a ton of extra space, it'll work, but they don't tend to lay as quickly. They'll kind of hold it a lot of times. I've seen to like day 40. So you basically want to kind of get the snake in a circle whenever you can, kind of measure where she is. And then sometimes it'll come out to 2.5 feet or 3.5 feet. So you always just want to go off of kind of, if she's a huge snake, it's going to be a little bit bigger, but you just kind of want to go off a tight circle. So she can fit in there, but it's not, there's not too much empty space in there.
Right. And that's a pretty big plus, ain't it, to have one of them in your cage?
Yeah, I don't recommend it the other way.
I mean, I've seen people without them, and it just seems like it's a nightmare trying to get eggs.
because something you got to remember with retics too. I mean, any reptile egg, they can roll. And when you're getting a retic off that wants to defend her eggs, it makes it really easy for an egg to roll. So, that's why you want to catch a retic. When they're in their trance is really when you want to find them. So
can you candle them just like a ball python egg if they do roll? Okay.
Yeah, you can candle them. The only thing with retic eggs, it's kind of weird, is some people, they'll toss an egg if it doesn't have veins in it. I always say never do that with a retic egg, because I have ones I've candled, swore were bad, and then, baby came out of it. So.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, just keep all the eggs till they smell. So.
Hell yeah. Keep them till they stink.
From start to finish, how long a process is it once you start pairing them up?
That's every female is going to be a little bit different.
But I mean,
on average, I'm going to say it's once they ovulate, it's going to be just like ball pythons, where you're looking at about a 6-week time till they're going to lay eggs. Then from that, it's going to be 89 days, which is why it's a little trickier to incubate them, because they're going to be in there a little bit longer. But the whole process gearing up for that, I've had super dwarfs that went off food and 3 weeks later they're ovulating. So it's a very short, you're looking at, an 8-week whole process. And then I've had mainlands that took 4 months, and with them, you got to be pairing them constantly.
How often do you pair them?
I like every 2 weeks, because they don't really store
sperm. Like ball pythons almost then. Okay.
Yeah, it's, and as it gets closer to ovulation, which you'll kind of tell, because retics go through kind of a first lump, and you'll start to be able to tell everything's condensing, the follicles are closer together. Then I like to do pretty much every 5 days, just trying to make sure everything's getting fertilized before ovulation, because they really don't store sperm for a long time.
So when they're good, like ball pythons, they'll just say, "Hey, get away from me. We're done."
Yeah.
I mean, if you're still trying to pair them up, you say.
Yeah, after ovulation, you'll just see they're on completely different sides of the cage, and sometimes the female, you'll start to hear slamming, and she's like, "I'm done."
Yeah. And I heard that's a big thing too, is keeping visuals on that, because the female can kill the male. So
yeah, it's especially if you're introducing a smaller male, you got to watch, because that first 20 minutes, she'll let you know if she wants them in there. And it's not like a ball python where they'll just go to opposite sides. If she doesn't want them in there, she's gonna, it sounds like they're gonna break the cage. Yeah, so they'll smother the male. There's all sorts of stuff, so you kind of really want to make sure she's receptive.
Oh yeah.
Wow. That's crazy difference.
What's the biggest male you use for breeding? Is there a certain limit that you stop using males?
I like to keep my males about 12 feet. So I feed the males a little bit differently, and that's they're a little easier to kind of manage. That's what most of the prehistoric pets ones were. Like I always say, a 16-foot male that's in full breeding mode is absolutely terrifying. It's a whole different ballgame. And a 16-foot male can just absolutely destroy you. There was actually an employee before me that lost a finger from a male bite from like a 16-foot male at Jay's.
Wow.
So it's something that I like to keep them preferably around 12, because when they start to get bigger too, especially if you get them fat because you're trying to feed them, they do not breed. A fat retic, and it's kind of the same with ball pythons. If they're too fat, they're just not going to do anything.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
A 12-foot male is my ideal size. 10 to 12 feet is when I really like to use them and breed them. So,
do you try slow growing your males a little bit, or do you feed them just the same as your females?
I feed them pretty much the same as the females. Sometimes I'll go a little bit heavier just because they're never going to eat heavy again, because they don't really go off food. It's very rare a male retic goes off food for breeding, unlike ball pythons. So I don't need to maintain extra weight on them. So sometimes if I need them, I'll feed them a little extra just so they grow a little bit quicker, because then I'm just going to cut all that fat as soon as they're ready to go. So.
Oh yeah. Have you ever seen your retics go off, not eat because they're in shed?
Yeah, actually I have. I'd say about half mine do it, half it don't. So half of them go off because they're in shed, the other half will eat through shed.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that myself, that, when they were smaller, that if they were shedding, didn't want to eat, but then, they'd shed right out. So
yeah, it's with retics too, it's incredibly important to keep track of your shed cycles and their feeding responses, because they'll go through a period where their feeding response is magnified, and that means they're building. And then when they get follicles, they'll completely cut off food. But you kind of want to keep track of sheds, because then you'll be able to see, like, okay, this is the pre-ovulation shed, this is the post-ov shed. So writing down every shed during breeding season, I think, is really, really important. I keep note cards on every snake where I'm writing down everything they're doing. So less feed response today or heavier feed response, anything like that.
Oh, yeah. What, you cut eggs early?
I cut them as soon as the first one pips. So it's a controversial thing, and a lot of people say different things. I always tell people I've seen more snakes die. I've never seen a snake die because you cut when the first one pipped, but I have absolutely seen snakes die that never had an egg tooth and were left in there or got tangled up or stuff like that.
Yeah, because I think what Jay was used like 85 or something like that, day 85. Is that right?
Yeah, he does 85, and every incubator is different because it kind of depends on where you're keeping them. So my incubator is about 89 days on retics, and it's pretty much right on the dot at 55, 56 for ball pythons before they take that first pip. But yeah, once you know they're ready, when you cut them, there's no problem. You just want to be careful, how you cut them. And you don't want to just yank them right out of the egg too, just because they have that umbilical cord. So you want to be a little careful how you do that. So
don't do like Jay does, is what you're saying.
He knows how to do it. I've never seen him yank out an umbilical cord, but I like to leave the whole thing, and it's just my personal style. But I like to leave them kind of left alone in there until they crawl out on their own.
Right. Yeah. It's the
safer route,
My ball pythons,
you do thousands of them anyway,
Yeah, exactly.
I've never had a clutch go 55 days.
Oh, really?
My incubator is 89, and it just must be working right or something. I don't know, or whatever. But what do you incubate? 89 for your retics?
Yeah, I do 89. Because I keep ball pythons and retics in the same incubator, unless I'm trying something weird. So usually that's what I'll do.
Unless I'm trying something weird. Hey, you got to try some weird shit every now and then.
That's the only thing that would, like I told him, of course, the front of my incubator is clear, but 55 days is long.
Yeah.
Now you're talking another 30 days on top of that. Another month. I'm going to be like.
The weight sucks on a retail club. It sucks. That's always what I tell people. I mean, it's almost 3 months. So that wait time is, you get really antsy that last 30 days. And I've never cut really, but man, there's times it's been like 80 and I'm like, I could if I wanted to, but it gets hard.
So really, from the time you start going to do the whole breeding thing, it's almost a 6-month ordeal then.
Yeah, it really, especially with mainlands, you're looking at, sometimes 5 months, plus. So it's a long process. And that's why I also make sure that we're feeding very heavily. It's something my partner is always adamant about, that we're making sure they have the weight if we're going to breed them, because it's such a long process for them. Because retics, it's not like ball pythons where they'll still eat once they have follicles. Mainlands will just not eat once the follicles get pretty much right past development, they're off food. So it's a really long time of them being off food. So you want to make sure they have that weight on them. So
right. Welcome, Todd. Yeah, I think that's why as bad as I want to breed them, that I've already made my mind that it's 3.5 to 4 years before I'll pair my female.
Yeah.
Just because I know you can do it early, people do it, but like you said, what I want to produce from them, and being the cows, and my dream, I'm going to do it right. And if I got to wait another year to make sure she's healthy and she's going to go and be successful after them years, then it's worth the wait. You know what I mean? To me,
absolutely,
exactly. Yeah.
I've seen people rush females and they never go till 8 years old or never, because they have too much fat on them. So,
and that's not like a ball python. I know you can breed them a little lighter than this, but retic is a whole different game. And that was the big reason I wanted to get you on here too, because I'm just to get some of your knowledge on this, because it helps, and the people that are trying to get into this game, because it is getting more popular amongst people, so.
Which is really awesome. When I first started keeping retics, it was kind of a weird thing. Like whenever I would tell people, I have a retic, reptile people would be like, oh, damn. Now it's like a commonplace thing, which is, it's really changed as it's gone along. And I think that's, it's something we got to keep, and something why it's, I discourage how nasty some of the breeders are to new people. In the retic world, it can be really bad. So it's something that, through knowledge, we can all kind of realize how to keep these and, how to keep them responsibly. So.
Well, I mean, it goes back with even ball pythons. I mean, I started keeping in the late 80s, and, you couldn't get no information, and it really hasn't started getting a lot of information until the last 10 years, maybe, or even less, People want to share, and they never did share. And I think that's a big thing nowadays, because it's just benefiting everybody,
It really is, and
it
that's
just benefits the animals. It doesn't matter about the people. It just benefits the animals in the end,
Exactly. It doesn't hurt someone to explain how to properly keep something, and the elitism kind of attitude in retics is what I think turns a lot of people off towards it. Because it's something as a new keeper just can be really daunting to kind of deal with when you're asking legitimate questions. So
I think the biggest advice I could give a new breeder is stay off of the devil book groups.
Yeah.
Because you'll not want to ever own a reptile again in your life.
Yeah, they'll turn you off owning a puppy if you go in the wrong group. Shit.
I mean, because, you go on Facebook and you ask a question, the first thing they do is start saying, "Oh, you're keeping it wrong," or they don't try to even help them. You know what I mean? And
exactly. And that's why I always tell people, you're welcome to text me. I hate answering stuff online because of what it turns into. So I usually you can find my phone number on my website and my Facebook and stuff. And I always say, just send me a text. I'm always happy, to answer it through that way.
And that was a big reason why me and him started this too. Well, helping my YouTube channel grow a little bit, but is a positive place where people could come in. We can have people on. They can ask questions, not get bashed. A positive community where no question's a dumb question, and I think that means a lot to people, because we have people come in here that we don't even know, and they'll be like, "Hey, my snake, my snake has an 8." Well, okay, this could be a lot of things, but let's start with the simple stuff, and we've helped a lot of people. We had people, their snake escape, do this, and it's worked. I mean,
it's always cool when they come back like 2 weeks later. It's like, "Hey, my snake finally ate," or "This happened," or "This happened." It's like right on, That's always cool.
That's why I like a lot of what you guys are doing, because we need more about that, especially with further laws that are going to come down the road. It's something that, if we educate more people, bring more people in, then the attitude towards these snakes is going to change, which is long term going to benefit us all. And the animals.
Exactly,
if we share details about care, we all learn together. So
exactly.
That's the thing.
Yeah. And where did I see that? There was a guy I think I heard it on a podcast, and he's making like his cards out, but it's like on the back of his cards is kind of like a care sheet, for that specific reptile, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or that species of, gecko or whatever, So when you buy something, they're actually giving you a pretty well general cut for that animal, which is kind of cool. It's like a trading card almost,
Exactly. I love people that are doing that and that are taking, the kind of time to talk to people and explain. It's like just asking people simple questions about, temperature, making sure you got the right species for what they're looking for and stuff like that is kind of like
the thing.
Really responsible.
And the devil book groups, they'll turn, you can't even, if you even just go ask a temperature question, like, what do you guys do? They're all like, "Oh, you should already know this, blah, blah, blah." And it's like, whoa, I was just, asking about different opinions or something. They'll just drill you down. I mean, they don't even give you a chance. You can tell them it's a rescue and you got it 5 minutes ago and you're already doing something wrong. It's dumb, man. Fuck, I hate it, man.
Right.
I'd been, I tell people too when they feel bad about asking that. I had to ask, actually, Garrett and me had a phone call where I was asking about my super dwarfs, because I was keeping them like my mainlands and I couldn't get them to breed. And when I was working for Jay, I couldn't get any of the super dwarf group to breed. And then when I called him and he shared his knowledge with me, it was like, okay, now I know, you got to keep them cooler. So it's, we all have to ask questions at any point, and that I've been keeping retics for a long time at that point, and I still had to be like, what the hell should I be keeping these guys at? So
right, exactly, and it is the bottom line. It's to benefit the animal. It's I mean,
well, in the end,
it's
for
all
sure.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
Because you want healthy animals, and that's and just staying on top of things. I mean,
bad blood. Thank you.
USARC is there to help us out, but we also need to be policing our own selves and helping each other do the right thing, not depending on them all the time either. I mean, once in our community, I mean, yeah, they're there to fight big battles, but we can help each other in this community where we don't have to have people like them defend us. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Just doing the right thing in the public eye is a big thing.
It's a crucial thing, and it's one of the reasons I'm so careful what I show on my YouTube channel, because it's really easy to edit something to look really bad really quick. And it's like, if we all avoid small problems, we prevent the really big problems. Especially at state levels. Like that person recently, it was really sad, but it was really preventable, that died by a retic. I think it was about a year ago. That already has changed some laws in Indiana, and it was a perfectly preventable, situation. So.
Yeah.
Well,
education is the key for sure.
I bought, earlier in the year, I bought a
Bubbles. Welcome.
a Sunfire Motley Orange Glow.
Wow,
female.
Beautiful snake right there.
And expensive. And it ended up dying on me 4 or 5 months later. And it was really weird. It went through a shed cycle. And it had a couple spots that had stuck shed on, And so I soaked it. And it was just really weird. So finally I soaked it, and it only had like a third of the body left to get some of the stuck shed off. Well, I got it off. Well, when I did it, it had another shed cycle coming back over it. And I soaked it a few times over the period of a week or whatever. And I worked with her one day, and she was just fine, And I got that last little piece of stuck shed off, put her back in her thing, and an hour later she was dead.
Wow.
And so I don't know if maybe she had an issue, is why she went through like they say if there's an issue, sometimes they'll shed to try to get rid of that issue again, And I don't know if that was it, but
yeah, a quick shed, a lot of times it's either a breeding thing or it's they're trying to get rid of an injury that they have.
And as a 4-month-old snake, though, I mean, it did. When I bought her, she had just one little rub right here on her nose, and it went away like within her first shed then. But it was weird how it happened. But then I wondered if she didn't have a neurological problem, because baby retics are everywhere.
Exactly.
So I might not, maybe not been able to notice it because of being a baby and how they just, they're all over the place,
It's something too I always tell people, and that's why I usually, unless someone is just absolutely doing something stupid, I can tell that I've said not to, I give a really long warranty, because these aren't like, it's not like a human that's getting scans all the time. There's issues some snakes have the breeder has no idea about.
Right. And he didn't.
Possible. Yeah. And that's why it's just one of those things that's unfortunate. But when we're breeding this level of snakes, there's issues that we may not notice just because, we don't have the technology that they do for dogs and other things. So it's something, a lot of issues that you never know about, Yeah. So something could be a small.
And he had 2 or 3 of them. And, that was the one I chose, and the other ones were fine. So it wasn't something I come back because, 4 months later, hey, man, because I don't believe it was anything he did. I know him, and and he wouldn't have done that intentionally. And it's just, why couldn't it, like I tell him, why couldn't it be $100 snake and not a $1,200 snake?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But I mean, that's how it goes.
I mean, even then, it still sucks. But I mean, either way.
Bubbles Butterfly goes, can snakes get cancer? Yes.
Yes, they can.
Yes. Yeah.
Man,
it's I haven't seen it super frequently, but it's something I absolutely have seen at both Bob and Jay's. So.
And see, even that was what turned me off of on a Facebook deal. They were bashing Bob Clark on one of the groups, and he's full of mites and he sells sick animals, and then there was a couple people that got on there and they actually worked for Bob, and they're like, no, his facility is good and blah blah. And I think a lot of that goes back to people are jealous,
yeah,
of big time breeders. So they want to bash him. You know what I mean? Because these people were nobodies. You know what I mean? They really weren't nobody big. And has he had mites in his collection? I'm sure he has. At one point, most breeders say, "Yeah, I've had them once, or whatever." Do I have them all the time? No, because they solved the problem.
Yeah,
that can happen anytime. But to sit there and I just can't stand people like that, you know.
No.
And then the bash the people that were saying, "Dude, I've worked there. I see these animals every day. They're taken care of," you know.
Oh,
and then saying, "Oh no, they don't," you know.
And then the people start basing all their shit off of stories from somebody else anyway. They don't even need to know.
It's never first person stories. And the thing that I can always say is, like, I've been in a lot of breeder shops. I've worked for 2 of the biggest breeders, and Bob's shop is the most well kept shop I've ever been in. You know, that's he's got people that just clean. He handles pretty much everything, and he expects the animals to be very well taken care of. They're in perfect enclosures. Everything's checked constantly. Stuff gets sprayed for mites. I would say his facility is by far the most impressive when it comes to just how they're kept and the condition they're in. So,
I mean, that was, you know, that was weird for me because, you know, like I said, he's a big influence on me growing up, and I called there one day and he answered the phone, and I stuttered. I started stuttering, dude. I mean, I'm like, this Bob. I said, "This Bob Clark?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, almost forgot what I was even going to ask you now because I didn't expect that, you know. I didn't expect him to answer the phone, you know.
Exactly. Well, you don't expect it from him. When I went in there, I was shocked that he was the one that opened the door when he said, "Come on down," and I was like, "Wait, you're Bob Clark?"
Yeah.
What's up, man? Somebody that works here. Madman, welcome.
He really works his butt off, and that's why what he does takes so much time. He's not always there for people when it comes to you know, holding your hand through the whole process, and he'll be upfront about that too. He's like, if you want top line customer service, you know, he's not going to hold your hand every step of the way because he's so busy with all those things. You know, the difference with his shop and other shops, he breeds all his own stuff. There's not a breeder. You know, at Jay, I bred all Jay's ball pythons, and I bred some of his retics, and Tim bred all, you know, pretty much most of the retics. But, you know, Bob breeds everything. He breeds ball pythons, he breeds the bloods, he breeds the berms, the retics. So he kind of does a ton of work there. So,
well, and I think people go back to like a down part of his life where he was in a low, you know, with his wife years ago, and they feed off of that, and that's not how the man is. No. I mean, come on, you know, you can't take a bad thing and turn it against what he does for business. They don't know the whole story behind that, you know.
And I watched what people were doing because I worked for him then. It was really hard to see. And what people were doing, they were even trying to use that as an advantage to get better deals from him and then complaining online. So seeing the full story of how all that played out was pretty horrible. Because a lot of people, even the ones that knew what happened, were trying to use it to say negative stuff about him and stuff. And it's, you know, it was a horrible time in his life. And he even was like, yeah, you know, it's like, I told people like, yeah, his customer service is dipping. And the man just lost his wife. So I never let people use that time to attack him.
Yeah. And that's what I've seen, and it just pisses me off because that shouldn't even be brought up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to kick a man when he's down like that, you know, and not, you know, it's expected. I mean, you know, I mean,
for sure.
Yes, I have noticed people that have pointed the finger at others and are guilty of this very same thing. Yes,
that's why they're pointing their fingers, because they're guilty about their own actions.
It's the same way that if somebody is having drama in their life or not happy in their life and they want to stir problems with you and your wife or you and your husband, they like that because now they get to have somebody else just as miserable as them.
Yeah, and I've seen most of the people that point the heavy fingers. You know, it's like the same thing as in Jay's. You know, I always say I won't say anything that I haven't said to his face, but it's like the stuff that people complain about is the people I know haven't seen, you know, anything that you could say anything about. So it's kind of usually those things. It's, oh, I heard this from this person, and it's like, no, you didn't. It's a lot of that stuff, and you know, there's always things you can complain about, but the people that do it are typically, like you said, kind of the worst for it, you know.
And I mean, Jay has some overweight snakes, and he said they're overweight. You know, I mean, he's not saying that they're healthy. And he'll say, yeah, they are overweight. You know, and you know, but that's the sometimes bad thing about video is people only see certain parts of things.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, of course, you know, there's groups on Facebook for that hate Brian Barczyk and hate this person. And if you look back at some of Jay's older videos, with Fluffy, or his big snake he had that died, I mean, it tore him up.
Oh yeah, it did.
I mean, and it was over a breeding deal, and that he never even thought about back then.
Yeah. And Brian, I really hate when I see people against, because he's one of the people I've met in person, and he is identical off camera as he is in person, and he's one of the nicest people I've met in this hobby. Very passionate, and that stuff really gets to him. I hate when I see that kind of stuff, because it's
But when you get to that size, there's going to be people talk. I mean, we don't always agree with what Brian does.
Yeah, same.
But that doesn't mean I'm going to sit there and say he's the worst person in the world either. I mean, he I mean, some of the stuff he does is like, well, but that's no doubt he hasn't made this industry to what it is.
He was, a very, very influential person at making, the industry the size it is too. And it's, I always say too, it's like we've all made mistakes. I personally made mistakes in the way I've kept reptiles in the past. But it's, it's like I said, a lot of what you see is not the stuff to complain about, is always what I say.
Right.
Like really random, obscure stuff that those people, because there's stuff I disagree with, but the way people attack him, not a big fan of. So.
Well, then too, it's YouTube. I mean, he's letting you see what he wants you to see.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, if there's something truly that he doesn't want you to see, you're not going to see it.
Yeah.
You're going to see shit. I mean, there's always going to be the little bit of clickbait on a thumbnail or this and that. Oh, he's doing this. You don't even know half of what he's doing. You're only seeing what he's allowing you to see.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Animals can be ones that live 50 years, but you might have one that only lives 5. I mean, you never know what health issue any animal can get. But I think that's the big thing with people that, they need to do research. That's the biggest thing. And because
there's too much of this, and this. Just like he said earlier, it's I heard this from this, from this, from this. You what the hell you heard?
I mean, you're going to take on
somebody talk. You didn't hear nothing.
You want to take on something like a tortoise or a parrot. I mean, that's a 50, 75 year or longer animal. It's something that you need to think about.
I joke with people all the time because an average, or not average, but there's a life expectancy of a goldfish is like 30 years. Who in their right freaking mind gets a goldfish in a bag going home thinking they're going to keep that thing for 30 years? No one. But it's true. They can live that long. But nobody gives a shit to think about it. But I mean, it is true. Nobody thinks about how long goldfish is going to live.
Right.
It's like they don't think about any of that shit. It's like they should.
But I mean, I think as like even myself, I mean, I've got it written down if something happens to me where my animals go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I want to know, I don't want them just to get scooped up and hauled off to a pound. I mean, there's somebody that I know can take care of them and has the means to take care of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing.
Somebody asked that one time, why do you put all the names of your snakes on the tubs? I was like, well, if something ever happened to me, somebody needs to know what's going on here. And they just looked at me weird, and I was like, well, think about it. I mean, if something happened to me, the wife needs to sell this off. She needs to know what's females, what's doing what, and she needs to know all that shit too. Why not have it on there?
Mine's easy because they're gonna they're gonna look at the name, go 100, 500, 300, and I go, that's their name.
I would have the most confusing.
You don't have any names. You just got dollar signs.
I got ID numbers on mine. I got the weirdest system, but
hey,
you do like the
whatever works for you is all that counts.
Yeah, that's exactly what I use, Reptiscan.
It's a pretty good program once you get using it, though. I mean,
yeah, it took a little bit to get, but once you get it, it's to kind of figure it out. To me, it's the easiest to use system to keep track of everything because with the amount of snakes I have, I can't remember every detail about it. So when a customer asks, I can just print out everything and send it to them. So
that's awesome. What's up, Rob?
For sure. Who?
Yeah, I know.
In here?
Yep.
Damn.
I know a lot of
Rob,
people that do stuff like that.
that.
So I heard it worked really great, and it's something that they can, because if you got a couple hundred snakes or 100, it's hard to write. Okay, hey, this one's feeding. So you can scan everything
just boom,
with
boom,
your
boom.
phone or whatever, or however you do it. It's so easy.
It makes
and it's an easy way to collect, to know what you're selling and not selling too.
Mm-hmm. It's a great way, great way to actually take a look at everything and realize what you want to make more of the following year. So,
right.
Oh, for sure.
And it's not that expensive of a deal either. So,
$25 and the amount of time it saves me and confusion has been well worth that price. So,
oh yeah, cool. Just so I'll throw it out there, we do have a Christmas show on the 23rd, and Todd from TNT has donated $50 credit to his
Oh, that's
facility.
nice.
So
thanks for that, Todd. That's awesome.
yep, I'll tell him thank you. So we did a Halloween show too, gave back to giveaways and stuff. We tried to do that. I mean, it's great.
Bunch of shirts and stickers, and
Heather gave a snake away, and it's cool,
Oh, that's right. KY did the snake hook.
Yeah, he makes snake hooks. I
like
like
golf
stuff
clubs.
like that.
They're amazing. Golf club snake hooks are amazing.
Oh yeah,
snake hooks is the best tool you can have in your whole one.
He made this retic hook for me.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, Goodwill got clubs everywhere. You can make snake hooks all day.
I mean, hell, where else are you going to get, a Callaway snake hook or something like that,
Especially, yeah, you get that titanium going on and shit.
Titanium, whatever. And actually, to be honest with you, they're pretty cheap for what he makes them for and sells them. I don't think you're going to find much of a nicer hook out there on the market. I mean, he makes these. These are nice.
Yeah.
He makes them super nice. I mean, he at work he had a machine and stuff. He machined stuff down. I mean, they're nice.
When I seen that first time, he's like, "Oh yeah, I make snake hook out of golf club." I was like, "Golf club, that's ingenious." I'm going straight and good and get me some golf clubs. I had to go make me one right away. It was like right on. I thought that was the coolest shit ever.
I just figured you'd use some of the ones you try to golf with.
But you can't even get any snake hooks around here anywhere, neither at any of the pet stores. They'll give you that little extender one. That's about all you get.
Yeah.
The dumbest shit ever. It's like, what are you giving that to? I mean, corn snakes are bigger than that thing's gonna take care of.
That's just the rub. That's just the rub on the head of a baby retic. That's all it's for.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I think it's just so you got something in your hand to make you look cool or something. Those things.
Roll business reptiles, welcome.
Useless.
Yeah.
Welcome to the stream. It's always funny. Last half an hour, we'll jump like 50 people. No, I'm just kidding.
Sometimes, yeah. So I mean, you keep ball pythons there at your place then, and he keeps the retics, or?
Yeah, that's how we do. I do the Super Dwarf stuff. I have most of that here. And then since I moved here, he's been building a facility out in Arizona, where we have all our retics are in. So that's should actually be done by the end of the year, and that's actually where we're going to be filming and doing a lot of stuff. A lot more YouTube stuff, and stuff where people can check out the parents. I was doing a Meet the Parents series. I'm going to start continuing. So there'll be videos for everyone to kind of meet the parents of every retic, so you can see the disposition of each one, the dad and the mom, and how they look and everything. So,
hey, how far is he from you then?
It's about a 6-hour drive. So
really,
I'm used to driving, and I like to hunt out there and stuff. So it's nice to go out. So
do you go out there and stay for a day or two, or do you just?
Yeah. I've only done it there and back in the same day once, and I don't intend to ever repeat that one.
Yeah, it's a long day, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
is there any expos going on around you?
There actually is there's one coming up in, I believe it's January. And so that one, I'm actually on the wait list too, because the rules were changing here, so I wasn't sure. The first thing they suggested, I was definitely not doing. So now that it's everyone's staying for the full 3 days, I'm on the wait list. And the Vegas show, for anyone that wants to travel to a show, absolutely fantastic show. It's a lot of fun. I usually do the best at that show, and it's just a lot of fun. You get to hang out with the breeders in Las Vegas, and breeders from all over come. You get John Cashman, who's always out here, who's a fantastic retic guy, if you guys haven't met him, and just a lot of cool breeders.
Have you met this guy here?
I have not, no. No, that is a guy I actually don't know, but I'll have to check that out. Whoops, I just hit the wrong button. There we go. But no, I actually have not. I'll have to check that guy out. I'll have to make a note of that.
I think one of the big channels, well, not a big channel, I guess, but one of my favorite channels I used to watch, but get a lot of slack on because you see a lot of their short videos. You see them on people put them on YouTube, and the dodo that she said is Sonny and Cher.
Okay.
Because they got them 2 retics, and you always see their daughter around this 18-foot retic, and the thing he did with them 2 retics was crazy, because it had 8, and he'd open the glass, he'd come there, and he could rub its chin. I mean, they were so social, I mean, you can see the ton of work he put into them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they see this big snake, and they go, it's going to eat that girl. I'm thinking, who do you think's videoing this? Who do you think there's not some supervision right there? But they grew up together, and I'm not saying it would never hurt her. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, in my mind, I think she's pretty safe. Not by herself, but you can tell that that snake is just.
It's a very controlled, Brian Cusco, Triple B, who's another channel I love. He posts videos of snakes with his kids. And
Thank you, Ro.
People always freak out on it, but it's like, you don't think he's right there holding the camera?
Yeah. That's what I mean, and he said that was the hardest video he had ever had to make, was when that one bit his daughter because she was playing with the chickens or whatever. And he goes, do you think it's hard? He goes, I had to fucking edit that thing.
Yeah.
He goes, how do you think I felt not only seeing it happen, but then to sit here, wonder, should I show it, not show it, and then to edit everything, because you know how he's into editing and seeing it over, So, I mean, I couldn't imagine,
I thought it was a great choice by him to show it. So it's one of the reasons that, he shows the stuff other people don't, and I like it because we all learn from that. So it's one of the reasons I really love checking out his channel, too. He's one of my favorite people I've ever met, too. So.
Right, and I think that's big. I think that's a lot nowadays is because, you never used to see information or the bad side of the hobby, and people show you, hey, this clutch come out kinked or dead.
Oh yeah, more and more people are letting it out there, for sure.
Whether you want to watch or not, but they're trying to educate people that this could happen. And people's like, oh, I've never seen that because nobody's ever talked about it or showed it. It's not that it never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's all there.
The best way to learn is is a mistake.
Right.
Really, at the end of the day, it's the best way you can learn.
And not be transparent about it, I mean, you be honest about it. I mean, everybody's going to mess up sooner or later. I mean, it's a given,
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But
I mess up all the time.
Always what I say. Like, I'm still making mistakes, so that's why I love reptiles, because you're learning every day. They never stop surprising you and what they're gonna do and how they're gonna behave. It's one of the reasons I love working with them so much.
Well, we're hoping Justin gets his first cluster of eggs this year. So.
Hell yeah, man!
I only got two females, but I'm ready. It doesn't matter either way. I'm having such a good time doing all this.
Man.
I'm all I can do is just keep learning. So it's like I fingers are crossed, but if something happens and it doesn't play out, bang, I'm gonna be right there again. So it doesn't matter.
It's like Christmas happens and it never gets old.
Oh,
people used to ask me.
I was surprised. Like I tell people all the time, I can't believe I got into a hobby that you got to be so patient. It kills me, and I've made it this long. I'm good now, so it's like I'm good now.
Yeah, I'm not a patient person, but for snakes, you got to be. So it's
it's really weird. It's like I think about it. It's like, man, there's a lot of hobbies to get into. They're a lot quicker than this. Yeah. It's like at least you get a lot of hands on, especially with the rodents and stuff. Keeps you busy, but yeah, it's definitely you got to have some patience. That's why I talk about a lot too, that people they underestimate the time that it takes to start some of these projects, They think, oh, I'm just going to buy a couple ball pythons and make a bunch of money. It's like, well, shit, hopefully. But I mean, it takes a long process. I mean, unless you're buying them all ready to go right now, it's like, it takes a while to get them going. Everything.
It does.
It's insane.
And, people always, they're like, okay, I have to have it by 4 years and everything's going to go perfect. And the reality is it doesn't,
Yeah. No. That's like people ask me, what do you want to make this year? It's like just a snake. I just want to make a snake. That's all I want. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what flavor, what recipe it is. I just want to make one.
There you go, Justin.
I'm gonna get Chris to put some chicken eggs. Oh, I'll know the difference between a chicken egg, but still, that'd be dirty. Oh man, that's dirty. Even thinking about that's dirty. Either way, that's funny, but that's dirty, but funny.
Bubble said when people treat their animals like family, my dad said if they bite, they're probably spooked, or sometimes they just don't feel good. Are those your thoughts? I mean.
Oh, for sure.
I mean,
there's always going to be some moods.
If you not thinking and reach your hand in a retic cage, it might think it's food, and that is your dumb mistake.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And or it might be in shed and didn't see you. You know, I mean, that's a big
thing. Yeah, when they go into blue, that people don't realize they're blind at that point. You know,
and I see a lot of
they can't see shit.
I see a lot too with like aquariums. You know, not that you can't keep them in there, but when the big hand's coming down from above, it kind of scares them a little bit. You know, they think it's a big predator. You know, I mean,
that's how a predator approaches them in the wild. So that's it's going to be a bird.
Yeah, and they're always going to be they're always going to be a little moody or something. You know, I get a snake every now and then. The head's up. It's like, oh, are you pissy today, miss, or something? You know, it's like they're usually not, but it's like you know.
I think it's more of a food response. A lot of times is when they're at that. It's food response. You know, with any snake. So.
Yeah,
well, that's like me. I forget what day it is all the time. They're probably thinking the same thing. Is it Wednesday? Oh shit! It's only Tuesday. You know, they're probably thinking the same thing. You know.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I've always told people I've only ever seen two really aggressive snakes out of all the ones I've dealt with. It's always a defensive or a food response. You know, they're not out to get you unless it's a breeding male that you messed with. It's it's either them being defensive of themselves or it's food. So.
Yeah. For sure.
And I think that's too I can see with taking a big female retic off her eggs is to try to give her the best experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you try to just stress her out and really grab her or whatever, man, it's probably not a good. I mean, she's probably not going to forget that with you. You know what I mean?
And that's a great point. The guy that actually, at Bob's, the manager that taught me how to handle them. That was one of the things he always taught me is when you're calming them down, they need a positive experience. They remember negative experiences for a long time. So
exactly, yeah.
So I mean, and that was one thing I remember hearing a long time ago was make sure, to try to give it the best experience because they're not going to forget if you.
And that's the bad thing with animals too. Usually, if you give them that bad experience, they remember that shit. It's not like a human, like, oh, I'll forgive you. It's like you give them bad experience. They're like,
15, 16-foot snake, get mad at you because every time you go to clean its cage, it's going to remember that, and then you're going to have your hands full.
I always told her there's a snake at Bob's that it was a really cool snake, and I accidentally dropped it one day, and I was getting it out, and that snake all of a sudden she was bitey with me and no one else. So they, I absolutely have, they can tell the difference between people. My wife has one that likes her and is a little iffy with me. So, she's got a big ivory that, loves her and is always like, so when I get her out, so.
No, she's in there with that ivory showing your picture. You're going, he killed my bunnies.
Bit my other hand. Yeah.
Remember that. So how close is that cow ball python? Can you get it?
Let me see.
Or is it too far away?
It just ate, but I'll be able to send you guys a photo as soon. I hate
that's cool.
But yeah.
Oh no, I don't get mine now on 8 either. I was just wondering. So
yeah, that's why I'm doing a whole update video on YouTube where I'm showing that one off and then showing the new ones that they should shed tonight. So it's going to be a whole. I've been really bad on keeping my YouTube updated, but I finally got kind of everything together to get it going, and that's going to be the whole reveal on that one. So
you'll be wearing your fancy sports jacket and everything.
So yeah, I need to bring that one out for that clutch. So
he gets all dressed up for his YouTube channel. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for shows too. Whenever people come to the shows, I'm always in a suit. So
hell yeah. So how many ball pythons do you think you got?
Ooh.
do you think you got? It's so funny in this freaking hobby. It's like, how many, around about how many you got? Nobody, it's always that question. Like, and then they're always like, wow.
Man, total with babies is hard. Adults, it's like 70-ish, I want to say.
No, not too bad.
Everything, it's not too bad at all. Yeah. It's been expanding, but it's not too bad. Babies, I don't even want to count.
Yeah, that's just going to go up and down anyway.
I only want to talk about that shit.
Yeah.
So is there any new genes you're wanting to bring in this year?
There's a tri-stripe I actually just brought in.
Nice.
So the tri-stripe stuff is actually the one I'm most excited about. So I got a double het axanthic tri-stripe that I'm really starting some cool stuff with.
Cool.
And then, that's kind of been the big thing. Any cinnamon cross I've always been kind of in love with. It's such a basic gene, but when you add it with the right things. I'm working.
And it's not a new gene either, but it's coming back popular again. That's the thing.
Yeah. It is because banana stuff. I wasn't big on it until I started adding dark contrast stuff like cinnamon and black pastel, and that's what really made me love that. And then getting more into the clown stuff this year. So big plans on that, and then hurricane. I'm hoping to add. That is one I've just absolutely fallen in love with.
Oh yeah, it's awesome, man. And the variety you got out of that clutch too was good variety. So I mean,
yeah.
The pythons, welcome.
The hurricane stuff, the puzzle stuff, I just started working with through a project with a friend of mine. But I think the hurricane is just every time I look at those, it's like that is a snake.
Oh yeah. So are your puzzles a little bitey?
So actually, no, they've been pretty cool so far. Yeah, it was a hassle getting them to eat. So,
and you're the first person that said that. Usually they say, man, they're just grumpy.
That's what I've heard. I got like 3 messages when I posted the pairing I did. They're like, oh, they're going to be mean. So far, it's been hard to get them to be mean to a rat. So,
hell yeah, well, that's a good thing.
Which is, yeah, I wish they would eat better, but yeah, that's about it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I've seen a picture of a tri-stripe candy, and it was beautiful, dude.
Yeah, beautiful. That exact photo I think was the same one that got me into it. And then the cinnamon tri-stripes that Ozzy just made, I was really, really digging those. So,
what about you like Monarch?
So actually, I do. The guy that made that used to work for Bob, and so when he first showed me those a long time ago, I fell in love with those. So
Rance.
Yep. So Rance is an awesome dude. I think he's still out in Oklahoma too. So
yeah, he sold off his whole collection.
Did he? I didn't even know that. So
yeah, in fact, John Feely, he just put a video up the other day with a girl that bought his collection.
He had some amazing stuff. Yeah, I know he was a firefighter, so he didn't have a lot of time to deal with it. But
yeah, he had some nice, and that stuff was out for years before anybody even started touching it. Now it's starting to come around,
Oh, really? Now I'm starting to see everyone kind of talk about it, but no one knew about it for a while. And then the Wookiee one was kind of similar. The one Kobilka just did that. I don't even know what that was. But there's all these genes with ball pythons that, basic genes. It's like a yellow belly, how many things can a yellow belly make? We found out about now. And that's like one of the oldest genes there is. So it's one of the reasons I fell in love with that whole species. So
what do you think of the Monarch? Do you think it's part of the Ultramale line?
On that one, I keep going back and forth. I've been reading the whole discussions of that. I don't personally think so, but there's some people that do think so that know a lot more than I do about ball pythons. So it's, it's kind of what I got to say. I don't personally think so, but there are a lot of people with a lot more knowledge that are saying so. So
I know if you look at pictures, it's easy to say yes. To see it in person is complete different.
Yeah. And that's the thing with Monarch is they really don't show up well on photos. When I first saw one in person, it was a whole different game. So
right. Yeah.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Calm down, buddy. What?
Any sunset in your collection?
Not yet, but that's a plan. So, the scaleless one is one I've been kind of on the fence with for a while, but sunset, when that comes down a little more, I'm going to be getting some of those. So I'm a really big fan of that.
That's the big controversy too, is everybody wanting to see a scaleless on a set of eggs.
Yeah.
Female, but I don't think a lot of people know much about them. is that, I've heard every time they eat, they shed.
That's what I've heard too. That's what,
So it takes a lot longer for them to grow.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Where a regular ball python, say 2 or 3 years, it's going to take this female, 5 years or so to get to size because it takes so much longer with them.
Yeah.
And
the people working with it, I assume we would know if it was fatal, if it was, because I've heard that rumor. But I really think Bob would have said something, or someone would have said something, and I don't think it is. But
I don't either. I think it's just because of how long it takes them to get the size. And but I heard that it's coming, that it's getting close, and it should be coming. So, there's people that are deep in that project. So,
it's a cool project too. It's going to be a game changer for a lot of genes. So,
hell yeah. I noticed that Freedom Breeder was selling a bunch of their ball pythons.
Yeah, I don't know if they're fully getting out or if they're downsizing, but I've heard a couple of different rumors about that.
They said they're adding on their facility and going to focus more on racks. So
yeah, which makes sense because they're always out of racks. They have some quality.
Everybody
stuff. Is. Yeah. The wait time.
Everybody's behind.
Yeah, all the way down to the just a single rack maker. That guy's busy as hell. Everybody is crazy, and then you can't find that PVC nowhere. I don't get it.
It's really hard to actually get. So it took me a while before I even found someone that would have it. So
see, that's weird. It depends on what area you're in. I mean, people in Florida get it all day long.
I know people talk about getting it at Home Depots for $50 a sheet.
I've heard that.
What the hell?
Yeah, every time I've heard that, I'm like, show me where. So
show me. Find me one. Yeah. Because my only thing about that is it's weird because Home Depots are weird like that. You think if one had it, the other ones would be able to order it in if you wanted some. They got shit that goes back and forth so much. You think they'd be able to bring you some in, but they won't.
I asked mine too, and they're like, nope.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really weird. It just seems weird how much they move around shit. You think that they'd be able to do that. It's really weird. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, Bubbles, you can ask your question. Okay, she said, if any one of y'all got a person that wanted to purchase a snake just to kill it for the skin, how would you feel about selling that snake to him? I wouldn't sell it to him.
I wouldn't. Never had that happen, but absolutely would not.
I've actually seen posts in Oklahoma groups for people wanting to buy wholesale.
Are you serious?
Normals for cobra food.
Well, I've seen that. That's almost like a feeder animal, though. But to just buy a snake just to kill it for its skin, that's a bit.
Well, but there's, there again, they're probably not going to come out and tell you that, though. That's the downside of the whole thing.
That's 100%. Yeah, because nobody's really going to tell you that, I'm sure.
I think someone asked Bob about that once because he does a lot of business with like the Philippines and countries where that's kind of a thing, and he was like, it would be so much more expensive to buy pets to do that than it would be just it didn't really make sense because I asked him about that once. So
right,
wow,
it was one of the times he got accused of selling to a snake guy, like a skin guy. He was like, I did not,
and I don't think they would be. I think ball python people wouldn't have to worry about that as much. Maybe the big berms or retics, but
it would be a berm, or retic.
If somebody asked me like, hey, if you ever had a snake pass away, or something, could I have it for the skin or something?
No, I'd say I'd keep it myself if I was going to do that. I mean, me personally,
I don't know. I probably wouldn't do nothing with it, but but if they was going to do it like purposely, that's just dumb. But what the hell?
Yeah, it would be spending a lot on like a morph, especially adult retics are not cheap for, something that would be cheap.
But I guess, like Jason said, I do sell my rats for food, so it's strange if you think about it,
for food is a different deal than to just kill it for the skin. I
don't know.
It's a little bit different.
I'd hate to know that I'm just producing a clutch of snakes for somebody to feed to another snake, though. I don't think that would be that bad. I really don't. If that's all you're doing is producing normals to feed your snake, maybe. But You could probably put an ad out there. Hey, if you have a snake die or whatever, and there's people that
Yeah,
freeze
but
save it
some
for you.
people need more, more often than that for the most
Oh yeah,
part.
cobra breeders, guys that breed cobras. That's a big requirement.
Right.
Yeah, because I've heard there's some of them just won't eat nothing else other than the snake. So it's like you got to do something.
I think it's your locale too. Florida, they get a lot of snakes. They can,
there's snakes that
baby
eat
Burmese
lizards.
and stuff like
There's
that. They
people
do, so.
People that keep, like a nose. There's other people that use them for feeders. It's like
Right.
Know. It's one of those things, I guess. I don't know. At least it's going for food. At least it's not just. I guess I don't know. Being used and then the cycle of life.
Well, I wonder if
not
there's
just wear it up on a belt somewhere. I guess I don't know.
I'm sure there's people that probably do sell them like that, or I wonder if there's even a place you can buy them like that.
I'm sure there's some asshole in his basement just breeding up snakes too, selling for belts or something. I'm sure there is.
But I know like coral snakes eat live food and stuff like that too. So.
Yeah, I think the ball pythons for a cobra. I don't think it's that big a deal. Do you want?
I wouldn't be feeding it a sunset or nothing like that.
Well, hey, and even then, if the dude buys it, that's his own freaking problem. If he buys it, it's like
that's
for my cobra. I'm an emergency. It's like, well, I got one for 500.
That's why a lot of times I give a normal to a friend a lot of times just because like there's nothing bad about it. And I don't want them to get fed off. So usually I give a normal away or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I wholesale mine off. But I do it to a buddy of mine who has a pet store, and we have an agreement. He makes a little bit off of it, and I get credit or whatever. It all works out. It's a mom and pop reptile shop, so it all works out in the end there. But
yeah,
and I'm not feeding it. I'm not holding on to them. And he don't sell them for much either, but it all works out in the end, so.
Exactly.
And I think some people need places like that, if you got 50 females going and you produce 50 or 80 normals, just by chance, unless they're hets, for something really good. But I don't know, it's pretty cool. Hell yeah. Any new retics you're bringing in this year?
Nothing we're bringing in, but some stuff now that's breeding that we're really, really excited about, me and my partner. So it's anthrax genetic stripe stuff. Really excited about. He actually hit on a new line of marble, is what we believe it to be.
See, I'd like to get some marble. I like marble.
Yeah. So it actually was a random mutation that occurred in his collection that looks identical to a marble. So he's going to be breeding that this year. We're going to kind of see what comes from it, but it's new blood. We can kind of breed into the marble stuff. So we're really, really stoked about that. That's probably one of the top of things. So we're really excited about outside of the blue hypo, which is, it's probably my favorite project and what I'm most excited about. So.
And the marbles, there's a lot to do with that gene yet too.
Yeah, there's a lot. It looks really phenomenal with color mutations. It tends to overpower pattern mutations, but some of the color mutations coming out with it are just absolutely stunning.
So what's a good, is it good to breed with like your albinos and stuff like that then, or?
Yeah, albino mochinos, it's amazing with. That's one of the locks we had last night was a lab marble motley to an orange glow. Stuff like that where you're going to be changing the color of it, it just looks ridiculous with. And there's some pattern stuff it looks amazing with. Some of it overpowers. Weirdly, actually, like marble golden, I liked a whole lot. But there's a whole bunch you can do with that gene. And it's relatively, a lot of it's been untapped. So
what's it not go good with, like Phantom and stuff like that then, or?
Personally, I wasn't a big fan of it with Motley. Even though I was pretty disappointed with that one. I think it kind of took away from me what's cool about marble and what's cool about Motley together. I don't know. We're working towards some anthrax stuff with it, and that one I don't have super high hopes with. Just because, but I think, marble and Phantom, I know they've been made, I just can't remember what they look like, but I assume that's going to be kind of a similar thing. For me, everyone's got different taste, and some people love that. I just tend to like, different patterns. So
Sunfire wouldn't be too bad, probably, huh? Get some Sunfire in it.
Those look really, really nice, actually. So I really like that. Platinum looks really nice. The one pattern that I think might turn out nice is a genetic stripe. So, which I think's working on that right now.
What do you think about? Do you think Tiger needs? You like Tiger? Do you like it in a lot of morphs, or do you think it's kind of like the pastel of of the retics?
I think it depends on what I'm working with. There's combos I love it with. There's combos I hate it with. I don't like it, for example, with titanium. Tiger and Motley is one of my all-time favorite combos. So I think it really depends. Tiger Anthrax is my favorite morph if I could have like one. So I think it depends on what you're doing. And there's some combos I think that are just like when you combine Tiger with another, you want to be on
the pup.
But when you combine Tiger with like another pattern gene, I think the result is absolutely amazing. And one of the interesting things is most the genes we call codominant are technically incomplete dominance.
Right.
Tiger, I believe, is like the only gene we have in retics that actually works as a codominant gene. So
awesome. Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, there's so many. I mean, there's so many. There's
Bubbles,
not a lot of
shit every time as well.
There's not a lot of retic genes really in reality, but I see so many awesome combos, with just the dominant genes alone, and and then what a lot of people don't understand, the different lines of albino, with the white and the purple, and and
yeah,
you mix this and this and get an orange glow, or you get a lavender, or however you mix in all these different ones up. It's crazy,
Yeah,
but I think snow doesn't snow fall in there too somewhere.
Yeah, so snow is an Anery albino. So
Anery albino,
great, which would be like our alleles would be like orange glow, mochino, lavender albino, that kind of stuff is our.
See, that shit is crazy.
Yeah.
I remember watching them videos where Tim and them guys they'd say all these goddamn names, and it was like you just get lost, and it's this or that, and Jay he'd be like, hey, what is this one? Oh, it's mochino, this and that and another. It's like that shit just sounded all Greek to me. I didn't.
But it's probably only a third of what ball python genes are, though. I mean, in reality,
it's so crazy though.
I think it's a third. I don't.
Yeah, probably not even that. Maybe not even a quarter.
Crazy. Like I can memorize every retic gene and what it does. I probably don't have 10% of ball python genes, in my head. So it's a whole different playing field with the retic.
So like there is some genes though that pretty well hold their value.
Yeah.
I mean, like an orange ghost stripe, I think it holds a pretty good value.
Yeah.
And it can be mixed, and it's a good looking morph. But now, have you ever worked with the Renic line?
I personally don't, just because I personally love the way it looks, but so much of my collection is geared around Clark strain albino that to me, I just haven't really found a way to work it in yet. Just because the two aren't compatible, so you end up with basically a double het. So that you couldn't tell if you made a visual pretty much. So it's just something I love, but it's just something I'm not working with at the moment because it's not allelic with mocha and Indo caramel and those things. So my big thing too is amel. So I'm a big fan of the amelanistic stuff. So
yeah, that's a nice looking morph for the AMLs, especially. And I think that's really the original Bob Clark big snake, wasn't it? Wasn't it an AML?
That was Jay's original Twinkie. Was an AML.
Twinkie.
Yeah,
but Bob had a line too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, that same snake.
It's a different gene, but it looks very similar. So with Bob's one, which is what we call Clark strain, that's your purple, lavs, and whites.
Right.
Look very similar to the AML, but they tend to hold more yellow, where the AMLs get more white. So I prefer AMLs to white phase, but a lot of people prefer white phase. So it just kind of depends on what you like.
I got you. Both giant snakes, though. That seems to be a pretty giant line.
Yeah, I have a Super Dwarf AML, which is one I've started to work with to finally try to get that smaller. But it's the mainlands tend to get quite big, which is interesting because the original female wasn't that big. She was mean, but she wasn't that big.
So do you think that you could take, on super dwarf localities, they say, hey, it comes from this island and it's 7 foot long. Is that because of the lack of food?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you could actually take that snake into a different locality and grow it bigger, correct?
This is where it's something I've talked about a lot with Garrett.
It takes years though to get back.
Yeah, it's I don't think you can, because what I think is what we're starting to think, and there's different theories on this. I personally think it's a different species, just because of the way we're breeding these crosses. They're breeding as hybrids. So when I say take a 50% Calotoa and breed it to a 50% Calotoa, it's more similar to breeding hybrids when it comes to result than breeding, a retic together. So it really depends, but they're definitely a different subspecies, and I think some of them are more closer to almost a different species and what they like and how they breed. So it's a complicated question we're still trying to figure out. So I've had
are there true super dwarfs?
Yeah,
100% super dwarfs. I mean, I've seen some listed. I mean,
very
that's a deal that people say that you got to watch because with super dwarfs, people putting the different percentages and this and what to really to know and to look for. I trust Garrett, of course, but there's some people I
hate to say it, I won't name names, but I've literally been vending behind someone that's bragged about selling a mainland as a super dwarf. Is know the locality. That's one of the biggest things. If you come to me and you go to my anthrax project and you ask what were the parents, what were the grandparents, I can tell you. And it's not a super dwarf, it's a Calotoa line. It's a Calotoa cross. So knowing that, I'm usually put off if anyone just calls it a super dwarf. That's one of the biggest kind of red flags, unless they say, okay, the locality is mixed, it's between these things. But it's a lot of times too, what's unfortunate with the super dwarfs is the misinformation out there. A lot of people that are selling them incorrectly don't even realize they're selling them incorrectly, because it's someone that sold them a 50%, said, oh, if you breed this to a mainland, you get more 50%, or that 50 was a 25 and they're making 12s. So there's a lot of stuff out there that's just not what it is.
And like, why do I got a 12-foot snake or a 15-foot snake? I mean, in reality, I mean, and I think that's the untouched, the big deal so far with the super dwarfs. Why, people like Garrett and people like that are getting their money because they know that they're honest, reputable breeders, and people getting into it just throwing. It's hard to trust somebody with a percentage.
He's researching just madman to try to get all these certain genes and to save these genes as well, not just to try to say it's this, and this and make
exactly.
it buck,
and it was something I kind of touched on earlier is with super dwarfs is you can take a pure super dwarf male that's even wild caught, and you pair into a giant mainland. I mean, technically you got sellable 50% Calotoas, but those are going to get legitimately 15 feet.
Right.
It's one of the things that you have to know the size of the mom, and that is a huge dictator of it. It's kind of the same thing I was talking about with small mainland lines. So you got to make sure the person knows what they're talking about. With super dwarfs, I don't recommend buying them, third hand and all this. Make sure they know where it came from. They know the parents, and who the original breeder was of that line. So it's huge.
That was the reason I had called Bob Clark. Is a guy had a tiger and he had it listed as like 50% Calotoa, 25% Jampay and all this. And he goes, I bought it from Bob Clark. And he told me exactly what time he bought it. And I called him. He goes, I've never had that line, that Jampay or whatever line in my collection. Yeah. So I didn't sell that I wouldn't have sold it as that.
Yeah.
And he knew when I told him what was in it. He goes, I've never had this. So there, and then the guy was telling me when he says, well, I think it's Heck Golden Child. I'm like, no, it's not Heck. I mean, you could tell he did. I said, you need to get the paperwork.
Well, the guy selling you that didn't realize that you could call the guy that made it, or he's saying that made it.
He was from Oklahoma too, but the point was that you need to know your genetics
very well.
It's not a Heck Golden Child. I mean, if it is, then I'm wrong, which I know I'm not. I mean, there's certain, that'd be like saying I got a Het Mojave, or whatever. I mean, there's certain stuff that's a codom. It's not a recessive,
Oh yeah, I've seen that shit in some ad or something. It's like, oh, it's possible pastel or something. It's like not possible pastel. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like,
it's
people are crazy like that.
Where I'll sometimes list possible if it's a gene with so many that I'm just not sure, because I don't ever say anything as what it is unless I'm 10,000% certain.
Right.
But with the super dwarf stuff, I mean that stuff is so important, and you can ask usually anyone that works with super dwarfs and they can spot stuff. Like a friend of mine, saw a Moschino Phantom, Sunfire that was listed as a 50% Calotoa, which is impossible. No one's done that or even come close to producing that. We haven't had enough time. So it's like stuff like that you can pretty quickly spot. And it's like, there's 2 people in the country that might be able to make that in 4 or 5 years. But, so it's pretty easy. And you can always contact anyone that works with Super Dwarfs. And we're pretty good at knowing, this is full of shit or it's not. So
welcome, John Feely.
Welcome.
And actually, I can ask you why you're here. Hey, John, the video you just made. What was that woman's what's her company name that bought Rance's Monarchs? Because he actually used to work with Rance, so he didn't know that.
I worked him after, so I just used to in the shop and I would talk to him.
I don't know.
Right, yeah, he come in, so he said he knew him, and I said, well, he sold all. He didn't know he sold his collection, and I didn't know. Couldn't remember her business name, so what is it? MSB Reptiles.
Yeah, MSB.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, but that also goes back into ball pythons too. I mean, anybody can put a head on something to get a sale.
Yeah.
But sooner or later, it's gonna come back, and people are gonna find out they're not good people to buy off of when shit don't prove out. But
exactly, and it's something right now that's because the recheck market's in a weird spot right now. So it's taken a little longer to sell a lot of things. So a lot of people, when it gets like that, are a lot more tempted, because I could sell my whole collection in a day if I put it as 50% Kalatoa. So always something to keep in mind is times like this when, it's a little hard to make a sale, you got to really watch out for that and know who it's coming from. So
for sure.
And spotting the price too. With Super Dwarfs, it's very easy. If the deal is too good, it's probably too good for a reason is always what I say, because they're hard to make and people usually charge what they're worth. So if someone's got a pureblood Kalatoa for $200, I can pretty much guarantee it's not a pureblood Kalatoa. So,
exactly. He says, I keep telling you, I got those quad hits. Who wants them?
I got them all day for you.
I got some hit red balls too.
I've seen some crazy shit in some of them, in the old Devil Book groups and shit. People will spit off some names of some crazy ass shit, and it's like, man, I don't even. I try to research this shit, and I don't even know what you're talking about. It's like, and it's like a normal or something, and then. Well, like, what was that one deal that he said he should guarantee to know if it was a head or not by a marking or something?
Oh yeah, this guy said.
What was that about?
There was a guy on Instagram doing a live, and he says, how like on some ball pythons, even the normals, they got like a little spot on their tails or whatever at the end of their tails. He goes, that's not a normal. That's a marking for a het. Them are het something, and all of them are always het like that. And I'm like, no, you can't. And then but he's also the guy that says, I keep my hot spot at 100 degrees.
Oh, and it's okay.
And he goes, that's perfect. And he says, I'm still waiting on eggs. You've been waiting like 2 years. I'm thinking, you ain't gonna get no eggs because you're killing the sperm.
Oh, yeah, the males are sterile.
But if you tried to say something to him, he'd get mad.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to report you. I'm like, hey, buddy, I just let you be who you want to be.
It was like the tip of the tail or something. Something about the color of the tip of the tail. He can guarantee if it was a head or not.
Yeah, it's like, wow, dude. Even with stuff that has het markers and reticks, I always say it's still a posset. It might have every marker, but it's still a posset.
Right, exactly. And you're not selling it as.
I've never heard of a marker, though, it's just like the tip of the tail like that, though. I've heard like
never like that.
All that kind of stuff. But yeah, and it was like, and it's weird too, because it's like, people on the channel all the time. It's like really weird.
Yeah, reticks only have a few markers, and it's like head anthrax will change the pattern. And if you have it in albino, you can see through the eyes. It won't be like solid red. It'll be like ruby translucent. So they got a few markers on them that you can tell. But
there's a huge thanks to you.
Hey, thanks, man. So good seeing you.
I used to go to Priesthood afterwards. JT's always an awesome dude. Hell yeah.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Bubbles, she goes, what got us into snakes and what was your first snake? And, I just grew up on a farm and been around them, and my dad tell me, don't kill that snake. It's good to have. And, king snakes, rat snakes, because they eat rats, And, without him telling me that and teaching me not to be afraid of them, you know, because, you know, they had a purpose, you know.
My brother always had reptiles when I was growing up, when I was little, to keep my mom out of his room. So I just kind of kept that trend going, you know. It was like, if you didn't want mom poking around in your room, you just have your reptile somewhere, and she'd never go in there. It was like, no.
Hell yeah.
For me, it was trying to get over my fear, basically, and I went from one ball python to a couple of weeks later getting a bunch of.
Yeah, Bad Blood said that earlier. That's why he bought his first snake, was to get over his fear of snakes.
So how old were you when you bought your first snake?
17. So I was terrified until then. So.
Oh yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, utterly terrified.
Would have never known it now.
People don't. I get a lot of people that do not. They don't believe that. So, but I used to get, like, if someone brought one, I'd be running the other way. So total freak out.
Yeah, but I mean, I hear that story a lot though, and I think that's what's good for this industry is somebody, or even somebody petting their first snake. I don't care if they're 80 years old. I mean, it's all worth it, man. I mean, you know, to realize they're not as bad as what you're made out to be, you know, because you know.
It still cracks me up at how many people think they're slimy and shit. It's like, they're not slimy. It's like, go touch them. It's cool, man. It's like, there's no boogers on them. There's nothing.
But I mean, I think that is,
you know, it's funny.
Even just to be scared, and then, you know, if they see a little kid touch it, that's what, then they think, well, I can touch it, you know. And, you know, even if they put the head on the other end, of course, you know, well, really, sometimes having the opposite end of that head, you don't want either, you know. So, I mean,
yeah, exactly.
especially with big snakes, but.
It's funny when I first got in, or not first, when I first got into the YouTube thing with the snakes and all that, I used to get people send me Jay's pictures all the time with him in them damn rooms with like 20 snakes. He's like, would you do this? It's like, oh God, he hand raised like every one of them damn snakes probably. It's like, you know, it's not the same as just jumping in there with a bunch of snakes, you know. But a bunch of people I used to get sent pictures of him all the time. Would you do this? Or did you see this? It's like, oh yeah. I follow the guy all the time. I tell him his name, tell him where to go find more, you know. Go watch other stuff. But yeah, it was always funny. Would you do this? Like, yeah, if I hand raised them all, I would, you know, or, you know, they're my facility of my snakes.
Yeah, he loves posting stuff like that. So.
Oh, they are dramatic. Yeah. I mean, you know, you see a guy in a room with like that, it's like, holy shit, I don't care who you are, you know. It's like.
I hear you, Dylan.
People aren't arguing with you. You're not doing it right. So that was always one of Jay's favorite quotes he said. So.
Nice.
Dylan says, "I'll take the head part all day. You can have that dangerous him."
Yeah. Agreed on that.
I mean, you know, but I mean, he's got some amazing stuff just besides retics. I mean, you know, now he's got his venomous, you know, I mean, the kaboom vipers and stuff like that. I mean, you know,
it's a really cool place.
Extreme.
Yeah. It's a very cool place to check out and see. And, you know, if you get to him, if he's there at the right time, I always say, because he does a lot of YouTube stuff. But if you get there at the right time and get to meet him, it's an amazing experience. And if you ever get to meet Tim O'Reilly, who's his breeder, it's it's worth its weight in gold. So
yeah, because he relies on him quite a bit. I mean,
he's so cool. I mean,
Tim is Jay has done a lot, but Tim is definitely he's the breeder of that place, and he taught me most of what I use today when I breed. So.
Nice.
Yeah, I can always tell if they're cutting eggs, you know, he'll be like, "What's this, Tim? What was the pairing again?" You know, I mean,
he'll go.
I'm not saying that Jay don't know, but I mean,
it cracks me up, you know. He's like,
but
he's first on my contact list whenever I have a question or anything like that. Tim's the first guy I call. So
that's cool. Yeah, I mean, and it's good they got that partnership like that too, because that's what makes that thing work. You know, I mean. The whole thing of it, you know.
Dee said the same thing. Jay's cool, but I'd rather meet Tim.
But, you know, a lot of people don't realize, you know, it's just not, you know, like with his one Age of Monder being on the Disney Channel. I mean, like even his alligators have been like on America's Got Talent. I mean, they've been on different shows. A lot of people don't realize that, you know.
Rap videos and if you see a big snake in a video, most likely it's one of Jay's. I mean, it's crazy.
Which one, honey? A few ads too, TV ads. My wife took some stuff down there and did that. So, there's a lot of stuff he does, and Jay's really the side of that in the face because Tim's not. He's a really shy guy. He hates doing every video he's in. You can probably tell he hates
Yeah, he's got that look like he doesn't want to be in any of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of works out perfectly because Jay loves the spotlight and Tim loves breeding, so it works. It works perfectly between them.
Well, that's what cracks me up. It's like you can have anything. It's like you can have like a scorpion this big. He's got one 5 times bigger. You can have a frog this big. He's got one 10 times bigger. It's like
everything has to be the biggest.
Yeah, yeah, the extreme. Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm surprised he doesn't have a kimono.
He's tried. He's still trying.
I would say he would want that and a parenti.
Yeah, eventually he'll get it. So that's what I was going to say. He's a very tenacious guy, and he's going to find a way to get that. So,
I mean, I know he's been to mess with the kimono dragons and stuff like that, and then I'm sure too, just like we messed with that big liger,
Yeah. Yeah, he takes every opportunity to mess with stuff, and he's expanding his zoo more and more. So,
hell yeah. Yeah, and it's just all the places he's been to too, I mean, overseas. I mean, showing how they do things over there, and like some of their they'll see everybody with like their big monitors, like it's a fair or whatever, like they're judging them. I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Well, I remember that time that Kenan came in with and he was trying to tell Jay that his lizard was more famous than his. Or something. He's going, Slinky's way more famous. He's going, bullshit. Mine's been on Nickelodeon. It's like this and that. It was just funny watching them argue about it. Or not argue, but just talking about it.
Yeah. It was a cool place to work. I got to meet a lot of cool people in my time there, including my wife. So it's a pretty
I guess
bonus.
That's the best time, huh? Yeah. Right there, huh? You better. She's listening.
Better answer that one right. So
yeah.
Yeah, don't bet that one up for sure.
Yeah, that might get ahead of the rabbit one. Well, we've kept you on here for a little over 3 hours, man. I know you probably got things you need to do, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us, man. I appreciate it. You help answer a lot of questions for me, in fact. So, I mean,
and, you've secured some stuff for me. I'm going to stay with the little snake. No,
if anybody isn't subscribed to him, which I don't see why you're not, Sophisticated Serpents on YouTube. Follow him on Instagram.
We're getting our YouTube back running, and then I'm always here to answer questions. So you can always message the page, text me, call me. I'm always, I do snakes for a living, and I can talk it all day. So
yeah, that's true. He messaged me back pretty quick when I messaged him on Instagram. So I mean. And was willing to come on here and
no, this is great stuff because this live is going to be on here for anybody that wants to, if anybody needs any of the information that was here, it'll always be there for them. So
thank you guys for having me on. Had a really good time talking snakes to you guys.
Yeah, watch out. I'm sure that John Feely guy, he's probably going to try to get a hold of you.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you have a good night. I appreciate you coming on, and I do thank you. So.
Absolutely. Have a great night, guys.
And you too.
Yeah, take care.
Awesome live, guys. Awesome. I mean,
that was way cool.
The guy is full of knowledge, dude. I mean,
that
was the biggest.
Are you giggly over there? Are you giggly?
No, I mean, I learned a lot. This stuff
I know that. I know you were sucking it up, boy. I seen you. It's good stuff, though, because it's good to see both sides like that too.
It's stuff that
It's
I have questions about. He's
worked both sides of the fence. He's worked for the guy over the big wig on this side, and worked for the big wig on that side. So that's
I mean, it's nice too because I knew with him being in Oklahoma and working here, is to find out what worked for him breeding retics in Oklahoma because he said it is different, from California in Oklahoma or whatever. So, I mean, and to find out. Just them little things that can help, and knowing
and that's I was right with anything you breed too. It's not really retic.
Right.
I'm sure it's anything you breed. You breed it in those two different, such different climates and areas that you're always going to have. Everything is not everything's all the same. Is what I was trying to get to. Like people just say, one guy's breeding them here successfully. You may not be able to do all that same shit here and be as successful.
Well, and then letting us know too, El Santiago, how do you say that? El Santiago Pythons is now shipping out pigs and stuff, frozen thawed pigs and bunny rabbits. So I mean,
that's crazy that all the rabbits got shorted out too. That's weird.
So and has just started that shipping program for for down the road, because that's something to know for the future. I mean,
yeah,
because
sure.
like I said, that
but no, this has been a great live.
Yeah, we had a lot of good, but I mean, yeah, I mean, just that was my whole key.
Use bleeding for information.
Wasn't to wait 4 years for that breeding project, but I know people do 3 years, but for him to say if she don't go, it might cost you 8 years.
Yeah, that was intriguing too. I was very interested when he said, you may get them to go that first year, but then they may never, they may wait 4 or 5 years to ever go again. And it's like, wow, or never go again.
Or wait, yeah, he goes.
Risky. That's way riskier.
To me waiting an extra half a year,
you have to wait for it now. You have to wait
is a big beneficial, because that's a big breeding project you can screw up. You know,
and that's the thing, and it's not just I mean any project you don't want to screw up, but
right.
to have information like that was gold, because I've never heard anybody.
I would have never thought that. I would have just said, "Oh, it didn't go this year. We'll try next year." And he's like, "If you breed them too early, and if they don't go, it might be 8 or 9 years old before they go."
And then to know that the benefit is so much greater if you do wait the 4, they're most likely to go every year after that. That is like you almost like
that's a no-brainer.
Take the chance and try early. Yeah, it's like you can't. It's like it's unreal. So yeah, that was great stuff for sure.
Christine, let us know how they turn out with you, how you like them. I'd like to get your review on that. I mean, so yeah, I mean that was awesome. I mean, and like I said, just being a kind guy and not with knowledge, but to be able to share and want to share, and then say, hey, what we're doing is good too, and I mean, I like that. I mean, that's good feedback.
You know what cracked me? I joked about it in the beginning about the hat thing, because I knew who you were talking about, but I wasn't quite sure. And then when I seen the picture of him, I thought about remember, because he always wore the hat. It always looked like he didn't really want to wear the hat, kind of thing,
Right.
It was just he just kind of wore the hat, kind of. I don't know. It was kind of weird, but it was like, as soon as I thought about the hat, I was like, oh, I know exactly who you're talking about now. I knew who you were talking about, but I wasn't like the name and the picture went together once I thought about the hat. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
yeah, I mean, you don't have to do it the day they come in. Just a week, whenever, a week after, or whatever. Whatever you think, you get time.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it ain't nothing you got to rush and do. Just or you can message me. It don't matter. On Instagram or whatever, or Facebook. But yeah, I mean, and I thought he had a lot more ball pythons than what he did, but I mean, he's getting there. But I mean, still, that's a big collection, I mean, but we know he's focused on retics too, I mean, but colubrids and everything else they're working with, I mean, that's a lot of stuff,
Hell
I mean, a lot of stuff. I mean, which is awesome. So I'm excited. Something new for them. Oh yeah, always something new for them.
Well, yeah, and it's weird how where he was there you could breed year round, and then here it's different, and all that kind of shit's good to know.
And if anybody wants to, there's no obligation, but if we're going to be doing a ton of doing giveaways again on our Christmas show. If anybody wants to donate anything for that show, they're more than welcome.
Even not about donating things, just help share it out,
or share it out, or
we get things
anything,
going.
I mean, or because it'll be an open, same thing, Todd wanted to really do it.
Open invited craziness.
Todd wanted to come on and he wanted to do something, he thought it was going to be on Christmas Day, and I said, nah, we're going to do it before, I don't want to do it Christmas Day because, but he's going to go live on Christmas, to wish everybody whatever, but
that's cool.
Which is cool, and everything. But yeah, that was some good information, a good show. We do Wednesday, we have Wally from Supreme Geckos.
For about an hour, you said?
Yeah, he'll only be on about an hour because he's got his live. He does that. He's got something with his giveaway, I think. I thought he said, unless he does it beforehand, I'm not sure. He might be doing it beforehand now, but he's doing that Supreme 12 Days of Christmas. Yeah. So they're doing giveaways every couple days for 12 days or something like that. So they just started the first one tonight. So
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff. If you got geckos and whatever, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that they're giving away through that whole deal, you know, which is cool. And then Friday, I'm not sure yet if we have any, but there's a couple of people that are supposed to reach back out. I don't know what dates they got. But if not, we can go with that idea you're talking about and just do whatever, you know. So, but I'll let you know if I hear anything before.
Oh, I hear nothing for Friday. For Friday,
yeah.
evening?
I mean, I won't book it at the last minute unless somebody just says, "Hey, this is the only time I can come on" or something. But
well, it don't matter. Yeah, we'll just talk some YouTube stuff. We'll just talk some biz, talk some
shorts or whatever,
YouTube like we usually do. Yeah.
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
It'll be a good time either way. But yeah, the old lady made a big old pot of some turkey soup though, so I'm out.
Turkey soup.
Well, you know, you suck the bones dry and then you make soup out that shit. You know how it works.
Still on, and then that'll be the last of the turkey for a while.
That's it. This is done. Yeah. Let's buy another one. You know how it works. You gotta boil it down to the end.
You got to get every last bit of your money out of that damn thing, don't you?
Yep. This is the last of the. Well, that's always to look forward to, though. That's the best part about the turkey, though, getting some turkey soup out of it, some turkey sandwiches. I like all the after effects of Thanksgiving more than Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? I like the turkey sandwiches. I like all. I mean, I like Turkey Day too, but it's like it's leftovers forever. It's the best, you know.
It's almost like when you make chili, you know, you put it in the freezer and eat it a couple weeks later, a month later. That's when it's the best, man.
Spaghetti the same way. You make that shit and eat it later. You know, eat the next day or something. It's good. But all right. But I am out of here. I'm gonna go get me something to eat.
Cool. All right, man. I appreciate everybody stopping in and hanging out with us. It was a good time.
Stop by tomorrow night on the channel if everybody's bored. I'll be cleaning like always. Oh, I'm gonna give away a shirt too if we hit 50 likes.
Damn, you keep raising it up, don't you?
Well, no, it was 50 likes last time.
Nope.
Well, it's 50 likes this time.
It went from 30 to 40 to 50.
No, I think I only did 40 likes, and now it's 50 likes. I don't even care. I'll probably still give away a T-shirt. I just want people to, to stay in the stream longer.
Hey, we'll get you the 50. We'll get you them 50. Don't worry about it. We always do. We always do.
That's what I want. That's what I want. See? All right. I'm out of here, everybody. Take care. Stay wild. Stop by tomorrow night, Wednesday night, Friday night, every damn night. You check and make sure. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Take care, everybody. I'm out.
All right. You don't have to. You can just stop by and join the fun, Bubbles. You ain't got to donate nothing. Stop by and you might win something. Peace.